Fresh off of an intermediate clash with the Gen 4 cars 2 weeks ago, the best of M&R visits another intermediate track with a bigger challenge in mind at one of NASCAR's newest super speedways. Live from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia, we welcome you to the Mach10 Digital 200 and the second race of the Super Speedway Tour for the Monday Night Racing Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital. Live from Atlanta, we bring you coverage on Podium Esports, where alongside Darren Denman in the booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Ryan Bowers, our producer all night long. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, it was a nice 1 week break for July 4th, Darren, wasn't it? A lot of fun to relax and have a bit of time off, but we're finally back to turn the intensity up, back at the Super Speedway Series here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And the biggest question that we still have in mind that has not yet been answered is who can stop James Bickford?
It's going to be a challenge tonight. Why would you pick anyone else other than Bickford at this point? He went out and dominated, well, didn't dominated maybe the last 50 yards at Daytona 3 weeks ago, but then he did dominate at Charlotte 2 weeks ago and just put on a heck of a clinic. A really incredible race and back-to-back wins for the Summer Series for James Bickford. So looking for win number 3 tonight. Can it be done? Maybe. Like I said, why would you pick anybody else? But there are a field of hungry drivers behind him looking to break the stranglehold that he has on this Summer Series.
Oh, 3 in a row is hard to do, but it is possible. We might just see if anyone can beat him before he can get to that mark. Let's look at the full MNR Summer Series schedule. This is, of course, presented by Mach10 Digital, and we did take that 1-week break for 4th of July. We're back here again, July 10th, Atlanta Motor Speedway, second race of the Super Speedway Series, and we saw after Daytona a lot of things that drivers, and not only them, but the league owners and the entire league learned from the World Center of Racing to kick off the season. What is the mindset moving forward here towards Atlanta as a driver and to try to move forward in this series?
I mean, I think, Kenneth, that you've just got to play it smart across the board, right? Like Daytona was a demolition derby, for lack of a better term. There were more cautions than I can care to even count, to be honest with you. And we saw a much cleaner race at Charlotte. Granted, it was a different configuration and different cars, different group of drivers, but a much better race. It was really an excellent race. I know it's virtual, but there were so many different storylines going on throughout the evening at Charlotte. So hopefully we're able to replicate that race tonight, even though we're on the new configuration in Atlanta. So it's going to be a balance really between the two, the shorter track that we saw at Daytona, but the higher banks that we would see at like a Daytona. So it's going to be really interesting tonight regardless. And again, we talked in the pre-race too, Kenneth, that we hope that some of those lessons that those guys learned 3 weeks ago are still in their heads. That 3 weeks is a long time to sit on the shelf and maybe forget some of those lessons, maybe forget some of those manners. But as the calendar flips over to July now, hopefully they're still holding on to a little bit of that and have a little racer's etiquette out there tonight.
Might take a little bit for the muscle memory to officially kick back in after being away from the sim for a little bit, but nonetheless, we should see a lot of excitement. And you mentioned it here, Atlanta Motor Speedway. It is an intermediate track, but it is a super speedway. It was reconfigured in 2022 for the NASCAR Next Gens when they arrived there for the first time in that season. And this track, very different from what it used to be. It used to be a very brash, a very abrasive 1.5 mile surface that could really eat up the tires and beat up the cars and make the drivers have a little bit of discipline. But as soon as they repaved the track and heightened up the banking and they made the surface smooth, this track is a prime super speedway, but it brings some of the elements of a 1.5 mile track, somewhat best of both worlds.
Kenneth, it's just interesting to watch a race from here. I remember when they first started turning laps, I guess it was last year at the track. It was really kind of surreal to see. The pack racing that we're typically accustomed to at a Daytona or a Talladega on the shorter track by a whole mile. It was really interesting to see, and really looking forward to see how this plays out tonight over to the 130 laps or 2 hours, whichever comes first. And blissfully, again, there's no rain in the forecast on the sim, so we gotta love that. We're gonna go either 130 laps or 2 hours tonight, so that's great to look forward to.
Oh yeah, 150%, 130 laps is a little while here to track like Atlanta Motor Speedway. However, it is not necessarily as long as, let's say, it would have been at Daytona. So we should see a rather decent time for a race. And of course, like you said, there are 130 laps or 2 hours. That's a new rule implemented for this Monday Night Racing Summer Series. So we should see that play into effect for the rest of the season. And if we do cross over that 2 hour mark, it doesn't matter what lap we're at, we're going to end this race. Now, we are waiting for drivers to get in their single lap qualifying times. We saw this happen a couple of weeks ago at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Darren, it was a lot of fun to see the drivers sort of put in their laps with the Gen 4 cars just because they were sideways all over the place. Tonight, we're probably not going to see the same amount of looseness, but there's probably going to be a lot of challenges at driving a Next Gen at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in qualifying trim to make it as fast as possible.
Absolutely, and if you're tuning in for the first time tonight, like, these are very realistic sims that these guys are driving. Very realistic cars. It's not the old Atari beep beep, little blocks on the screen. They're very realistic, and it's sim racing. It's simulated racing, and it's going to be incredible to see what these guys can do on their qualifying laps. And it really played a big part in these qualifying laps, as they always do. But being able to watch them at Charlotte 2 weeks ago really painted a picture and laid the groundwork for a great race, a great broadcast 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 100%. And it's going to be different here watching the single lap car qualifying as you look at the 23 Dakota Curtis, his Ford Mustang coming out of turn 4, and he would come across for the first and only lap in his qualifying effort. So he will set the tone, so to speak, for what we should see on the bar for everybody else to qualify in. But it's a very different conversation that you have to have, Darren, for qualifying at a track like this, because you're looking at, obviously, a super speedway. You don't really know what to expect in the middle of the pack, at the front or the back, but you'd probably want to be at the front. Track position is going to be a little more prioritized, let's say, as opposed to, let's say, the Gen 4 race, where you can work your way through the field and a lot more comers and goers in that type of racing.
Right, absolutely. We saw it during the race broadcast last night, too. Track position really played a key in that, setting up where those guys wanted to start, just avoiding the wrecks and knowing how many cautions and how many incidences there were in that Daytona race 3 weeks ago. I'm still going to choose to be out front, even though some of the incidents, a lot of the incidents at the end of the race were out front. But again, the safest place to be, I always say, is with the air on your nose and pointing toward the checkered flag. So let's check in with Dale Earnhardt right now, who barely lost that race, led it all but the last 50 yards, and he's looking for a little redemption tonight in Atlanta.
It definitely does. He was so close to that win at Daytona. By the way, Dakota Curtis with a 31.665, so he sets the first time. Can Earnhardt improve it? It looks like, yes, he can, putting it in at a, looks like a 31. That was a 6.24 that he set, and he's going to be slowing that car down, but we don't see it officially on the timing sheet, so not sure whether that lap was invalidated. But here comes Michael Fisher, driver in the number 30 Ford Mustang. He's going to try and bring it out of turn 4 on the high side. He'll dart it down to the inside of the racetrack, and I believe, Darren, that Dale Earnhardt's time was invalidated. Whether that was a 0x from hitting the outside wall or what, looks like Earnhardt is not going to be able to officially put in a qualifying time here from Atlanta.
Yeah, I didn't see what happened there either, Kenneth, but definitely a bummer for the 81. He'll be starting out back tonight as we progress through the rest of the lineup here.
Well, it looks like here comes Michael Fisher coming out of turn 4. We'll see what time he puts in. Can he beat Dakota Curtis's 31.665? Yes, sir. 31.543 for Fisher. Nice run there for driver number 30 as he puts in the fastest time. And here's a driver, Darren, that we know very well at super speedway tracks. This is the number 25 of Lane Sabile, former championship Ford driver from last season of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. He's going to look to grab his first win of the Summer Series here at Atlanta. He wraps the bottom for his first and only lap of Q.
Was just going to comment on that corner. He just cut through 1 and 2 right down on that red and white line, and he's doing the same thing in 3 and 4. Maybe a little bobble getting in there, but a real clean looking line for Leighton as he comes out to complete his qualifying run. Let's see where that puts him. And he's going to be at a 31.6, so not the cleanest lap. He's one of the slower cars of the 3 or 4 that have qualified so far.
Man out of Statesville, North Carolina, puts in a 31.640, so that will put him second. So speaking of Dale Earnhardt, we saw that lap invalidated, but that's because race control did not clear the black flag given to Dale Earnhardt for the pit road exit. So he reset. Now he's going to be able to go again, so at least the 81 will have a chance to put in a time and understand where he's going to be by the time we wave the green flag for tonight's Mach 10 Digital 200. So staying at the bottom end of the racetrack, they'll get into 3 and 4 for the final time, and then we'll have the next driver up on the docket, which should be Nick Olson, driver of the 24, who ran very well at the Charlotte Motor Speedway just 2 weeks ago with the Gen 4 cars under the Grit Esports team. Earnhardt comes out of 4, crosses the start-finish line, and that is faster than Lane Sabile and Dakota Curtis, 31.608.
Looks like he's going to be second right now. That lap from Fisher holding up pretty well here in the early going as Olson's on track now. Headed into 1. And again, these guys are really cutting pretty laps early on in qualifying, able to hold it down on that red-white line. We didn't really see that in Charlotte. A lot of the guys dancing around, getting loose with the different cars, but these new generation cars really looking good on this Atlanta service, and the guys really doing yeoman's work to put in some fast laps here in the early going.
I was about to say, when you go from Gen 4 to the Next Gen on a super speedway, it's a really big difference. You go from at the edge of grip with the Gen 4, so much horsepower, and then you get to a 510 horsepower package. It feels like light work when you're driving in a track as smooth as this, but with a car that has as much downforce as it does. Nick Olson puts in a 31.550, so that puts him second. Still nobody yet to beat Michael Fisher's 31.543. Ford Martin comes across the line, and he will go back into turn 1. It looks like he is still holding pretty on that throttle, and we're seeing exactly what that 07 can do lap time wise, but I'm surprised, Darren. Nobody's been able to top that number 30 quite yet.
Surprised, but Ford might have a run here. He's turning significantly higher RPMs than the other guys that have gone out. I think it was Fisher I don't think he broke 8,000 RPM, and we see Ford coming to the line at about 85, 8,600 RPM. So, but again, same lap time, I think, as Nick Olson there out of Ford Martin. So he's going to line up third here in provisional qualifying so far.
Ford Martin with a clean sheet 31.6, so no other numbers on the tenths or thousandths of a second. So 31.6, that puts him third behind Nick Olson and right in between Olson and Dale Tanhart in the 81. Here's Steve Alfont, driver of the number 54 machine, driving the Toyota Camry, the behind-the-wall colors, as we are very accustomed to seeing when he drives in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. Steve Alfont going to come into 3 and 4, still hugging that red and white line at the bottom of the racetrack. It is very easy to go around this track by yourself, just full throttle 100% all the way through, but it's about holding the line and getting a good run. And for Alfont, that's a 31.645, so that's going to put him P6 right behind Leighton Sabile. Next car who's on the docket, Darren, how about Brandon House? Very aggressive driver at Daytona, did really well at Charlotte Motor Speedway a couple of weeks ago, and he's looking for a consistent third race in the M&R Summer Series.
Yeah, it all starts here with the qualifying run, but let's talk about consistency for a second, Kenneth. Look at the times up there now. 31.5, 31.5, 31.6 for the rest of the guys. If you want to talk about professional sim racers, you've got them right here. They're holding their own, and they're consistent with what their cars can provide, and that's right there in the mid 31-second range right now for these qualifying laps. Great run so far by all the guys. Great consistency, something we did not see at Charlotte, where there's lap times all over the board. As Half comes to the line to complete his lap at, again, now another 31.5, 31.6 if we round it up.
Yeah, 31.562, so that's going to put him third, just behind, again, Nick Olson, Michael Fisher. Nobody able to beat those two right now, but here comes Max Kennan with a chance to put his name on the top of the charts in qualifying. He's going to bring his Chevrolet into turns 1 and 2. And Darren, like I said, it's rather easy to drive this next-gen car at Atlanta all by yourself because it's a smooth surface. You don't have to worry about lifting off the throttle, but what things mentally do you have to carry as a driver to make sure that you keep that focus intact throughout the one lap, the only one chance you get at putting in a time?
I don't know what that, I'm just watching him carry that hot dog through 3 and 4 right now. Great looking scheme for Max Kennan. Is he part of the 31.6? You just got to stay focused though, right, Kennan? It's one lap, it's 30 seconds after you're warning. You got a minute to focus to lock down a really good time. These boys know what they're doing though. They've got it on lock, and it's just a matter of focus. Block everything out of your head, keep the dog in the other room while you crank out this lap, and hopefully it's a good one. And everybody, again, consistently in the 31.5, 31.6 range right now. Looking real professional tonight as Brett Baldick with the Podium Esports colors on the car tonight. He goes through 1 and 2 down the backstretch.
Got
a little high, looks for him.
Camry. Yeah, a little high, yeah. Off of turn 2. We'll see what he can do in 3 and 4, so he'll try and arc it. But it's a rather smooth approach. He's not trying to jerk the car all too much and make it lose time. He'll come out of turn 4. Still Michael Fisher with the best time, 31.543. And as the Rochester, New York native, Baldeck comes across the line, that will be 31.650. So that is second slowest time so far of the ones that have qualified. Here is the number 41, Matt Stolnick. What a race it was, Darren, from Charlotte Motor Speedway for him. I have to acknowledge it because he went from nearly the back of the field to the top 10, ran pretty well, did get caught up in an incident or two, but he came all the way back. And the 41 car looking for a win here tonight on a super speedway here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And he's going to come out of turn 2 back straight away. And Stolnick, who finished 16th at Charlotte a couple weeks ago, going to be on the bottom.
He was way, this is not his warm-up lap, correct? He was so high through 1 and 2. We'll see how that shakes out for him. Maybe he's trying something a little bit different, and it's going to be actually the slowest lap. So he blew 1 and 2, just got way too high, lost 0.3 on the rest of the field. And at this point, Stolnick, shotgun on the field. He's going to have a lot of work to do tonight once again, just like he did in Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, 100%. The 41 car, I believe according to GJ Cummings, thought it was 2 laps long instead of just one. Sonic was trying to set up the first lap like if it was a 2-lap qualifying format. Unfortunately, it was not. 31.929, slowest out of the 11 drivers we've seen put in qualifying times. Here's Connor Berry, the former rookie driver in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. And he's going to be going into his second full-time M&R season if he makes it to season 7 come this fall. He'll cross the line. And Barry with a 31.616. So the driver out of Menifee, California, will put in a time that is so far good enough for 6th. And Will Davis, driver of the number 7, next up.
I mean, I guess going back to what these guys need to carry and what they need to have in their minds, it's you just got to know the rules, too, that it is only a one-lap qualifying run. As we see Will Davis on track right now into 1 and 2. He's just a little bit high as well, but again, just got to block out the distractions, know where you're at, know what you need to do, and that is crank out one fast lap as we see Will Davis trying to do that down the backstretch here in Atlanta.
Davis is going to go into 3 and 4 all the way to the bottom, and we'll see what lap he puts in, driver number 7. And based on the note that we just got from our producer, Ryan Bauer, mentioned that he was in 5th gear around the racetrack. He crosses the line, and that is 31.632. So that's going to put him just behind Connor Berry with a 31.616. So that'll put him at about 8th place. As here is Presley Sora, Season 5 Monday Night Racing Pro Series champion. And let's talk about the gears as well. These next gens have sequential shifting going all the way up to 5th gear. You got to also make sure, you know, that again, it's rather easy to drive around this racetrack, but you got to make sure that you're either in 4th or 5th gear, and the way that you shift up the gears as you come out of pit road. Look at the digital dash for Presley Sora. Very different from what we saw out of Will Davis, all the way in 4th gear, 8,500 RPM around the track.
Absolutely. Just looking for a clean lap out of Presley as he's going to clock in with a 31.571. He's going to be in the top 4 right now. Rounded out 4, but again, you just got to love the consistency out of these guys. You don't think they're taking it seriously? They are. Look at the times up on the board. I don't know if you get that consistent out of an actual cup race at this point. Great qualifying efforts so far as we near halfway through qualifying.
It's just really close. You're seeing everybody within at least a 10th or so, even less than that. So it's going to be really close. Competition is going to be when we drop the green flag. Here's Joseph Gregory, driver of the 20 machine. Came home with a rather tough finish at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 26, 4 laps down. Gregory looking to bounce back here at Atlanta. He'll come out of turn 4. All white Toyota Camry. I think
I love it.
He learned some lessons from Nick Olsen a couple of weeks back. Having no decals probably gives you some more horsepower, but it's a 31.617, so that is barely slower than Connor Berry's time, and that will put him 8th. As here's Matt Alverson on the board.
And we'll see what Alverson can do here as he looks like he drifts up out center of the track, coming through the dogleg there here in Atlanta. Maybe a little bit high, trying to arc that corner just a little bit through 1 and 2, just a little bit off that bottom line as he drifts up onto the outside wall. We're looking for that consistency, at least in my opinion, kind of just to hug that red and white line, make it the quickest way around the track, the shortest way around the track, and see what we can do. As it looks like Alverson drifts up middle of the track. Don't know if this is going to be the best lap for him. Maybe not the lap he was looking for. Let's see what it clocks in at the line.
The 6th car of Alverson gets in at a 31.558, so that is really fast. Only one of a couple of drivers to reach the 31.5 bracket, but that will put Alverson in 5th, so a pretty good qualifying effort for him. Here is Joe Zolo, driver of the 60 car. I believe this is the first start that he's making, Darren, here in the Monday Night Racing Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital. And look at the colors. He's repping the orange. That's Syracuse, I believe, right there on the
Gotta love it. It says "Let's go orange" right on the side. And Zola was quick in practice just a little bit ago. Had to ask a couple questions. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? This is his first race, right? And the answer to all of that was Joe Zolo. And yes, it is his first race. Let's guess that he's from Syracuse, repping those colors. But he was fast in practice. Let's see if we can transfer that into qualifying.
And that's a 31.593. Pretty decent qualifying time. That will put him 6th, so that will move Ford Martin down a spot. We will have the next driver on tap, and that is the man to beat, Darren Denman, the 29 of James Bickford, undefeated in the first 2 races of this summer series. And we'll see what the Charlotte Phoenix Camry can do in qualifying.
Let's see what he can do with these Charlotte Phoenix colors on tonight. And, you know, they say 2's great, but 3 is a win streak. So he's looking to start a streak tonight if he can pull off the win here in Atlanta. Bickford down the back straightaway, looking locked in as he cranks out this qualifying lap.
Here we go into 3 and 4. Can Bickford topple the charts? And can he get by the 31.543 set by Michael Fisher? The Camry hugs the apron out of turn 4, and that is 31.550, almost identical to Nick Olson's time. And that will bump Olson down to 3rd. So Bickford with a great time in 2nd, still yet to beat Fisher's number 30 car time. And here's Gary Sexton in the 13, who had a bit of experience last night after winning the Sunoco Cup Series race right here at this very track with the very same cars by 5/1000ths of a second. Sexton, I think, carrying a little bit of confidence, no?
Absolutely. And, you know, he was excellent in the race 3 weeks ago at Daytona. Got a little bit of damage late, and then it kind of all just fell apart from him from there. But a really consistent, really great race for Gary as he ran up front a lot of the night right until the very end as he's coming to the line to clock in with his lap, a 31.561. So Gary looking at a pretty solid qualifying start here in the top 6 or 7. He's going to line up 4th at this point. Nice run for the pride of Dewshore, Pennsylvania, Gary Sexton.
Yeah, not bad at all for Sexton, who's going to come in. We're looking for 2 straight wins at Atlanta in 2 straight nights. Here is DJ Cummings, one of the admins and the pillars of Monday Night Racing. He'll come into turns 1 and 2, wrap the bottom. That beautiful NASCAR Ford Mustang paint that we've been accustomed to seeing for so long. He finished 11th at Charlotte 2 weeks ago, and he's a pretty decent super speedway racer.
And he was,
at the right time too.
He was right there in Daytona too, leading halfway down the backstretch on the last lap. If not for just a errantly timed block, he could have been parking that 10 car in victory lane. Right now he's looking for the pole with a 31.566. Not good enough for the pole. Right now, lining up 6 is DJ Cummings.
Still not able to break Michael Fisher's time, which still waits for someone to beat it. Here's Ronnie Osmer, the Dude Wipes Ford Mustang. He crosses the start-finish line. We'll head into turns 1 and 2. Ronnie Osmer had a great race at Charlotte, top 10, and was off of Daytona as well. It's been a pretty good summer series season for him, and the driver who was right off of the rookie campaign in the Pro Series a couple of months ago. He's got a head of steam, and he'll go into 3 and 4, looking for a way to beat Michael Fisher's 31.5. Now, it's been interesting to watch as well because you look at the track temperature, Darren, it is scorching, 107 degrees. It's the reason why we call it Hot Atlanta, is the 55 crosses the start-finish line, and that's going to be 31.569, so not faster than the leader so far. That's going to put him 7th on the board. Do you reckon that the hot track temperature might be a reason why nobody's been able to beat Fisher's lap yet?
I mean, I'm trying to figure that out myself. He went out first, correct? Like, that's incredible for him to be able to hold on to the pole for all that long. You would expect some variation in the track or just anything. But for a guy to go out first and hold the pole position that long, pretty incredible lap, especially with everybody being so close. It's not like, you know, a cloud came over the track and gave him, just a cooler temperatures on the track. It's really incredible to see that he has been able to hold on for as long as he has. Now we see the 70 of George Jewell on the track trying to take a swing himself at Fisher.
And George Jewell will go for his first and only lap in qualifying. And yeah, that is just interesting because Fisher wasn't necessarily the first driver out. It was Dakota Curtis, but he was rather early in the lineup. So you probably would have expected some of the guys around him to put in similar times, right? Just based off of they got in earlier. Maybe the track temp was a little less than it is now. So maybe that gave them an inherent advantage. But nonetheless, Fisher's time is still standing. So that just shows you how good of a lap that was for George Jewell. This is a 31.624. So that will put him pretty much inside the top 15, so just around the heart of that. Here's Matthew Kent into 31, and I think, Darren, a lot of these guys took notes from Nick Olson because we're seeing blank cars left and right sometimes. It looks like that's adding the horsepower for these guys.
Yeah, you know, if you had the time to develop your rap or develop your skills. Always develop your skills, right? Like I've learned that lesson over many years of racing. Spent many hours painting cars, stickering it up, and making them look good. But the stickers don't always make them run better. The stickers actually never make them run better. And the prettiest car on the track is the one that's sitting in victory lane. So if I could spend another half an hour learning this setup at Atlanta, I'm going to do that instead of making a race car look good, because any car leading the pack looks good to me. Even this 31, look at those vintage looking numbers on there. Just the clean looking car, great looking car in my mind. And Kent's going to line that car up 5th right now, right behind Gary Sexton.
Yeah, good lot there for Matthew Kent. How long does it take you, Darren, to paint a car up?
Oh, I'm good at it. 22 years of practice. I can make them look real nice. Granted, it's a demolition derby car, but I can make them look real nice in about an hour.
Hey, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's all good.
Sometimes in the neighborhood, dads come by and have an adult beverage and just sit there in awe that I can do what I can do with a can of Rust-Oleum. So.
All right, well, here's Mario Miranda crossing the stripe. Tulsa, Oklahoma native. That's the fastest lap. There we go. Finally, a driver that beats Michael Fisher. There's the reaction for Miranda on the bottom right of your screen. The Sooner Esports Camry takes it to the top of the board.
Great. Finally, somebody on the pole as Mark Rubilis on track right now in the old Kenny Irwin throwback. What a beautiful car. Thrown back to the Bell South days of right around, what was that, 2000? Great looking car. Looking for a great looking lap out of Rubilis as he is going to take the green. Seeing no timing and score. There we go. There's the timing and score popping up for the 99.
I love the colors here on the 99 of Rubilis. Kind of gives you the Bell South type scheme that you saw in the NASCAR Cup Series way back when. And Rubilis is going to bring this colorful Toyota Camry into 3 and 4, and we'll have some of the nitty-gritty drivers go up next. Chase Cabry just got the go-ahead, so he's on track at a turn 2 ready to set his time. Rubilis on the other side of it, 31.602, so that's going to slot him 14th, as here is Cabry, the driver who finished 2nd, close enough to James Bickford a couple of weeks ago at Charlotte, but no cigar. Cabry going to look for his first win this season.
Yeah, and again, just looking at these cars, what beautiful cars, though. Like, these guys take this very seriously. I know we're joking about paint schemes, but man, the Bell South paint scheme, this great car out of Cabry tonight, and even just the white ones, they all look good. A lot of guys taking this very seriously and putting on a heck of a show for you fans out there watching on all the streaming platforms tonight. But again, Kenneth, I'm still looking at the timing and scoring, 31.5s and 31.6s throughout the field. Consistency throughout the field for these drivers, and hopefully we can see that consistency and dedication in the race tonight as Cabry comes to the line with a 31.534. He'll slot in the top 10. Just in the top 10. Nope, I guess 11th he's going to slot in.
No, for Cabry, so 31.533. That's going to put him.
Oh no, he's second. There he is.
So right in between the 89 and the 30. Hell of a lot there by Chase Cabry. As here's Dylan Connolly with the Alpha Prime Camaro colors here from Atlanta Motor Speedway, and ran a hard-fought one at Charlotte a couple of weeks back where he came in and finished inside the top 15, so 14th place finish, and looking for his first Monday Night Racing win. To see the camera there on the bottom. I love the Michael Jordan poster there on the door there. He is a high school broadcaster, and as the 95 comes across the line, that is 31.561. That's going to put him right in front of Matthew Kent in P7. We're seeing a lot of closeness, Darren, between, I would say, those guys at the back half of the top 10, and even some of them in the top 15. Really close between all of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to have, where are we at right now? 26 guys I'm seeing within a tenth, 2/10 of each other. Just incredible racing, driving at these guys. And the man who always reps the Vikings jersey, Nothing Goki. Here he is again, repping the Vikings jersey on Monday night. That Air Force car. He had a really solid run at Daytona. We got to talk to him a little bit. Got caught up in one of the many melees. Looking for a little redemption here tonight in Atlanta.
Yeah, for sure. Bringing the Air Force car to the fastest time.
Oh!
31.504 out of nowhere.
Even he looks surprised.
On the pole.
Even he looked surprised.
Wow.
See the smile on his face when he when he got that lap time in. I guess the Air Force boys turned the afterburners on that one. It hit Mach 47, and turned the fastest lap of the night. Great lap out of the 08 and Jonathan Goke.
That is priceless, the reaction we saw there. He saw it and said, that's the lap I just put. Fastest time for the 08 machine is here's Joshua Slate, driver out of Ashland, Virginia, co-founder of Behind the Wall Media, coming out of turn 4 with a very simple black Ford Mustang. As he comes across the line, that's a 31.602, so that's basically identical to Mark Rabilis' time. We saw that 99 put in a qualifying effort not that long ago. And here is Monin Rahman, the 15 car, the rookie driver in this M&R Summer Series, presented by Mach10 Digital. He'll try and go for a qualifying time.
Great looking car out of him as well, and Rahman had a really great run. Where was it, Daytona, Kenneth? He was up in the mix and mixing it up. Really nice run out of him, but again, with all the cautions, did not get the finish he was looking for. So looking for a little redemption here tonight, and I feel like I keep saying that because after the last Super Speedway Series event at Daytona, a lot of guys are looking for redemption to prove that they can hang with the Monday Night Racing regulars.
Yeah, we saw a lot of craziness at Daytona. We're looking for a little calmer of a race from Atlanta, but we know that when you shorten the racetrack, it doesn't necessarily make the racing less chaotic. It's a 31.560 for Monin Rahman, one of those in this series that is only running the Super Speedway, so you won't see him on the Gen 4 side. He's just right in on the Super Speedway races, so you didn't see him at Charlotte, but that's the plan for him, just to run the 4 Super Speedway races that we have on the schedule. And here is Corey Heim, the man who set the fastest time in qualifying 2 weeks ago at Charlotte Motor Speedway, looking for his second straight pole.
And if there's a ringer, it's going to be Corey Heim in this field, coming off the truck win at Mid-Ohio over the weekend. Great win for him, second win of the season in the Craftsman Truck Series, and he's looking for a hot lap here. Always a favorite in Monday Night Racing is Corey Heim after all he's done, and he's going to clock in with a 26.5. There we go. The timing's just adjusted for me. 31.59. Mid-pack start looking for Corey Heim on this Monday night. Not the effort we expected out of him.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that we're seeing Corey Heim that far down the running order. That's 16th. This here's the other Cabry, Cole Cabry, who put in a great run at Charlotte Motor Speedway and then pulled it out of turn 2, just pulled it off to the side, went on the apron, just let everybody through and called it a day. Unfortunately for him, wasn't able to finish that race. Hopefully we see him come across the line at the start-finish line when we wave the checker this evening from Atlanta. We saw a lot of great stuff out of Cole Cabry, so looking for some good stuff here. And out of turn 4, will come across the stripe. That will be his qualifying time. And so far, that is not officially set, but I believe this is going to be his official in lap. So that was his out lap there on the outside of turns 3 and 4, but the 51 will come across to the back straightaway. We'll see exactly what he can do here.
He's looking like he's holding a pretty solid line right down there on the red and white line. Should be a pretty good lap for him. Maybe drifted up just a little bit as he cuts it low here through the dog leg. Cole Cabry coming in the line with a 31.521. Nice lap for the 51 here late in qualifying. Going to line up third at this point.
Yeah, that's a really good lap out of Cole Cabry. So the two Cabrys are going to be lining up row 2, but we'll see if Colin Fern has anything to say about that. The driver of the 96 was in the booth with us at Daytona, then stepped on the racetrack at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but this is his first Super Speedway race, and he's got some good history here in Hampton, Georgia. Was the winner last time Monday Night Racing was here. Now, obviously, that was at the old configuration of Atlanta, so it was a way different track to drive overall, but nonetheless, Fern still has a lot of success here. He's going to be looking to carry that in with the history that he's got. The first time we run Atlanta since that last race back in season number 5. That is a 31.541 for Colin Fern, so that's going to put him inside the top 5.
32 qualifiers so far. Everyone's within 31.5 or 31.6 with a single exception. I believe that's Stallneck, who thought there was 2 laps of qualifying. Again, the consistency. I cannot beat that drum enough. What incredible drivers, as it looks like we've got Brandon Brown high on the track. This must be his out lap again, correct? Oh, no, there we go.
It does say lap 3, but it looks like Brandon Brown is going to get
his out lap.
The go-ahead, yes, to get on the out lap. So this is his run to the outside wall. and then he'll come across the start-finish line, blend it towards the bottom, and it's a very interesting thing to watch the way these drivers qualify at super speedways, where you have to keep such a clean line, and you cannot afford that car to drift up any higher or lower than it needs to be. Just needs to be in a perfect line all the way around. Brandon Brown, though, a little more pressure, Darren. He's the last car in qualifying to go, so either he goes for pole or he just puts in a time that's good enough to put him somewhere in the middle of the field.
And he's got that, I believe that's the Wilkesboro livery on the car. Great looking race car again for Brandon Brown this evening. It looks like he drifts up just a little bit high in 3 and 4. Will that cost him? As he comes to the line, he's not going to clock into the top 10, a 31.656. So the field is set, Kenneth. Goki
Yes,
on the pole.
The 08 car grabs pole with a 31.504. Qualifying is concluded here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll take a short break, but on the other side, you will find more coverage of the Mach10 Digital 200 as part of the Monday Night Racing Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital. Jonathan Goke at the top of the board. We'll see what he can do when we get the green flag.
Mach 10. Let's give Mach 10.
You're cleared for takeoff. Request permission to engage with the task conducted smash. Over.
FrontStretch.com, providing up-to-date news, analysis, and commentary on all the latest in the world of motorsports. Check out Front Stretch YouTube page for post-race content after the checkered flag waves for most NASCAR events, giving you up-close interviews with your favorite drivers and the stories that matter each weekend. For the best seat of the track and the best view on the web, visit FrontStretch.com.
Qualifying is just finished here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. We return to coverage of the Mach10 Digital 200 as part of the second race of the Monday Night Racing Summer Super Speedway Series presented by Mach10 Digital. Jonathan Goke in the number 08 machine puts in the fastest time at a 31.504. He's going to lead us to green tonight. And Jonathan, we saw your reaction, absolutely priceless, when you crossed the start-finish line and saw your time. Were you just that surprised that you put that Chevrolet Camaro on pole?
I was surprised it was that fast. I was hoping for like a mid-5 because I can qualify on super speedways pretty well. I mean, I'm not good at racing them, but I can qualify. But I was surprised to beat that 52. I was like, huh, I'll take it. I was like, ooh, a surprise.
Was there a
Oh, go ahead, Darren.
No, I was just going to make a joke about, was there an aftermarket button in there for the afterburners? That was an incredible lap for that Air Force car, dude. Like, really looking good tonight. I know Colin was in here a couple of weeks ago when we last talked. He was making fun of the Vikings jersey. Hey, but when you're sitting on the pole, it doesn't matter what you're wearing, right?
You're dang right. Look at that.
That Vikings jersey had to have added about 15 more horsepower. That was a great lap, Jonathan. We got you on the grid behind the iRacing official pace car. We'll let you get set in and focus for tonight's race from Atlanta, but an amazing lap. Congratulations on the pole, and best of luck for the green.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Let's hope for a good race. I'll be here if you want to talk to me throughout the race.
So that's Jonathan Goke, driver of the 08 pole sitter here from Atlanta Motor Speedway, and they have just advanced the session, so we've got drivers sitting behind the iRacing official pace car. Let's take you trackside for the starting grid of tonight's Mach10 Digital 200. It's Jonathan Goke with a 31.504, fastest out of anyone in qualifying. That number 08 will lead us to the green first, followed by the fellow rookie driver Mario Miranda in the 89 on the outside of row number 1. The Cabreys line up row number 2, Cole Cabrey in the 51 with a 31.521, and Chase Cabrey in the 39 to his outside to roll off P4. Colin Fern for FRS Racing in his first Super Speedway Series race in M&R. He lines it up inside the top 5. Michael Fisher, who held the pole for so long in qualifying until the very end, he will start in P6. James Bickford looking for his 3rd win in a row in the M&R Summer Series. He starts from 7th. Nick Olson for Grit Esports in the 24 car. He will start in 8th on the outside of row 4. Final drivers inside your top 10 include the 15 of Monin Rahman and the 13 of Gary Sexton, winner of last night's Sunoco Cup Series race.
All right, moving into the teens and the 10s. Dylan Connolly in the 95. He'll roll off 11th alongside Matt Kent in the 31 P12. Starting tonight. Brandon Houff in that beautiful number 9 car is rolling off lucky number 13 alongside DJ Cummings in the 10, starting 14th. Ronnie Osmer, after a couple great runs in the series, he's going to roll off 15th. And Presley Sora, season 5 champion, starting 16th. Back to row number 9. It's Matt Alverson in the 6 alongside one of the favorites in the field. Not a great qualifying effort for Corey Heim as he rolls off P18. And rounding out the top 20 is Joe Zolo in the 60 in his first start. And league owner Ford Martin in the 07, starting 20th.
Mark Rebillis in the 99 puts his Toyota Camry 21st. Joshua Slayton, the 01, will be alongside him in 22nd. That is row 11. The doubled up drivers in row number 12 include Dale Tanhart and Connor Berry. Gary Sexton just got turned. They just had a problem there coming out of pit road. Joseph Gregory and George Jewell, the 20 and the 70, round out the drivers in your top 26. Will Davis in the 7 car is 27th. Leighton Sabile, Championship 4 driver from last season of the M&R Pro Series. He'll start pretty deep in this field, row 14 in 28th place. The hot dog car, Max Kane rolls off.
There we go.
Steve O'Flott in the number 54 on his outside. The behind the wall Camry is 30th. Brett Baldick in the 4. The Podium Esports car is 31st. Brandon Brown 32nd. And then the final 2 drivers in our grid. Dakota Curtis in the 23. The first one out for qualifying. And the number 41 of Matt Stolnick riding shotgun in this field here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's a beautiful day to go racing in sim. Track temp at 101. Air temp at 88 degrees. Winds blowing to the north at 2 miles an hour. But regardless of the stage that is set, we're going to see a lot of chaos here from Hampton, Georgia. Green flag in the air, and the Mach10 Digital 200 is underway as the leaders chase for turn 1.
All right, boys, let's keep it clean as we dive down into 1. Clean-looking start so far as they gear him up, hammer down onto the backstretch. Side by side, lane by lane. Here they come down what used to be the front stretch at Atlanta, as the Toyotas lead the charge into 3 and 4.
Looks like a great run by the outside lane, led by Mario Miranda. So Jonathan Goke loses the lead, but he's going to stay on the inside. He's got help from the number 51 of Cole Cabrey behind him. Meanwhile, the other Cabrey, Chase Cabrey, the Tampa, Florida native, on the outside behind this 89, giving him a solid push. Looks like a 2-car breakaway at a turn 2 for lap 2.
Yeah, it just didn't look like the bottom lane could form on that one to get and keep Goke in the lead on that one. But he's holding steady in that bottom lane, just a car length or 2 off the lead. And he's got a run coming into the dog leg. It's Jonathan Goke looking for the lead. Mario Miranda will hold him off at the line to lead lap number 3.
I was about to say, you cannot take the fight out of GOAT quite yet, especially in the first 2 laps. Gains enough momentum to take back the lead, and we'll see what Mario Miranda and company to do, what they have to do to take away the lead. But the 08 blocks up high, a nice move by the Camaro.
Great
so
move.
He will hold on to the front spot. Colin Fern has shifted himself inside the top 5. And I want to ask you, Darren, how aggressive are we reckoning to see these drivers early on? And are we going to see a lot of conservatism at this stage?
Man, I would ride if I was any one of these guys, but I'm in the booth talking about it. So I am sure that we are going to see some aggression out of these guys, at least in the early going, right? Like, we're professionals here, and we're here for a good time. And when you hit the wall, it doesn't really hurt, and it doesn't cost anything to wreck the sim. So we'll have to see. You know, maybe after 3 weeks ago, we are going to play it safe and run some consistent laps and get some good hard racing in without putting guys on the wall. As a battle for the lead of the line, Chase Cabry looks like he's going to lead that one. New leader, lap 5.
Mario Miranda still pushing that number 51. Jonathan Goke went all the way to the bottom. Colin Fern went over the radio, and he's going to push the 08, try to get him back to the lead on the back straightaway. But one thing that we really did not talk about going into tonight's race, it's a rule that carried over from Charlotte 2 weeks ago. There are no faster pairs. So we're going to see a balance of aggression throughout this entire race, Darren, because when you don't have that quickie freebie to give you a clean race car when it's all banged up, boy, you've got to be really careful with what you've got beneath the wheel.
Absolutely, and just that is the safety car that these guys do not have tonight. But again, great racing. No one's looking to get single filed yet. It looks like the parade laps as the top 30 are within 2 seconds of each other.
Yeah, everybody really close, and it's the exact same thing that we noted, or at least you did, Darren, in qualifying, is that everybody at the mid-pack that were so close to each other. And obviously, given the fact that it's a super speedway race, you're going to have everybody crunched up with one another. On board with the 2-time winner in this M&R Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital, that is James Bickford. He's been the man to beat, Darren, and no matter what it is, whether it's a super speedway in the last couple of laps, whether it's a Gen 4 race on fuel strategy, Bickford has been able to check off all the boxes and do it all, showing that he's a double threat and probably one of the most dangerous drivers heading into Season 7 if he can keep that consistency going.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's the lane that he wants to be in right now. It just looks like that bottom lane can't hold the momentum. A lot of guys jumping in and out. I think that's Colin Fern I keep seeing jump in and out of the bottom lane. It just looks like they can't keep the formation like they'd like down on the bottom, and it appears that those guys are falling back. Jonathan Goke leading that line. He's all the way back to 8th place right now as the top line makes a surge. But here comes the 24, Nick Olsen, charging to the front of the lead. He's got momentum coming into the dogleg down the front stretch. He's not going to get the lead, but a great run from Nick Olsen to get him some track position up to 4th.
Yeah, I was about to say, look for Nick Olsen, who's been flirting with that inside lane, and now he's got some official help in the form of the 96. Miranda and company on the outside lie back a little. Cole Cabry has no help, and to the lead goes the Great Esports Camaro, Nick Olsen, new leader from Atlanta.
Great looking run from Nick Olsen. He had great help out back as Colin Fern dives low, looking for maybe a sniff of the lead on himself. James Bickford now packing it in behind Colin Fern as the boys are racing here in Atlanta, and they are putting on a show early.
Yeah, they've been doing awesome so far. Really clean stuff and a lot of changes for position, especially up front. But one thing to note is they are approaching a lapped car. That is the 7 of Will Davis, who's at the back of the field. There's also Gary Sexton, who apparently had a pedal issue right on the starting grid when he was coming out of pit road, so hence why he spun. He got an end-of-line penalty, so he is so far back from the main pack that he might be put a lap down as long as he stays there. And if a caution does not wave, Colin Fern maintains control here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And let's talk, Darren, about this Atlanta track a little more, because you look at, as these guys get around lap traffic, the narrowness of this speedway. This track used to be a lot wider when it was that old and bumpy configuration that they had for so many years since the early 90s, but when they reconfigured it for 2022, they narrowed up the racing line, which means less space to fit cars in, less space to avoid if you have a wreck.
Absolutely, but I hope that plays into these guys thinking and their calculation into the race tonight as Colin Fern's catching that lap car, Will Davis, right now. They've got to be more calculated, and there's not a place for these guys that are lappers like Will Davis to hide. So the fast track boys, the lead lap guys, are going to have to dodge him. They're going to have to be smart about it and not try to get up in the Solar Car's mess. Which it looks like what's going to happen right now. Three wide right now, trying to get around him.
Will Davis is trying to find himself a clean spot to maneuver on, and everybody does a great job at this point to get around him without any significant trouble. But you can find a lot of trouble when you've got lap cars all the way at the bottom. Everybody else is going to get by, but that did extend the gap up at the front that this outside lane has on the rest of the field. They've been chokeholding everybody that's been trying to make a move on the very inside. But here comes Presley Sora. An opportunity. He's got no help, though, and there's Gary Sexton. With the issue early on, Darren, that's got to be really tough seeing the entire field behind you, and you've pretty much got no choice but to go a lap down.
Yeah, he's still got not the saddest look on his face, though. He's holding a pretty wheel. He doesn't have a win in this league, but he is a professional of sim racing, and he's going to be okay. It's still early on. We're still only 14 laps into this thing, one caution at this point, and he's right back in this thing as long as he is not the caution in this beautiful number 13 Camry as Colin Fern looks to come around and put Sexton a lap down.
I'm just going to correct myself. He's going to go 2 laps down, so he already is 1 lap down. That 13 in a pretty big hole here in the early goings here from Atlanta. There is Chase Cabry, who's now starting to man the bottom. He's got help from Michael Fisher, the driver who was a rookie in the last season of the MNR Pro Series. And a great job by Fisher in qualifying. Great job so far in the race. They're going to bring in Cole Cabry, so they drag him to the inside of the racetrack. Cabrys are going to work together on the bottom and see if they can topple the number 96 of Colin Fern, owner of an FRS racing team, so that is the team in the Xfinity Series, and the Norwich, New York native still holding on out front. Probably something, Darren, that we expected to see out of Fern, given his aggressiveness and stellar way of racing at these super speedways.
Well, you know, my boy Colin Fern said he was going to walk away with that win in Charlotte 2 weeks ago, and he did not. So, you know, he needs to get a good enough finish for us to interview him tonight and question him about his failed walk-off pole shot a couple weeks ago. But he's looking good here in the early going, leading the field over Nick Olson. And, you know, he started a little ways back, was able to charge up front, and has been the only one that's really been able to maintain the lead once he has got it tonight. Granted, the race is shaken out a little bit differently, and a lot of those leaders came in within the first 5 laps when everybody is just gunning for the lead. And now a challenge for the lead, as that's Cole Cabry sticking a nose out front of the FRS Camaro.
You know, I was going to say, if we ever end up with an interview in Colin Fern, we're going to remind him about that Charlotte race until the day this season is over.
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking about, hey, you called this shot, you didn't get it, try to get it this time by. But Fern has done a great job of staying out in front. That pressure from Cole Cabry still present on the inside lane. The Cabry's doing a nice job of hooking up together. Better push, though, by the outside, this time in a turn 3. So Nick Olson will get Colin Fern the lead once again. Here is Matthew Chen with a good look at 21st, so he can see the entire field right in front of him, 2 by 2, all the way down this main pack there. And it can be rather scary when you're really close to the drivers around you. You're all packed in, and Matthew Kent seems to be just hanging in there. And I gotta love the Utah Jazz basketball shirt too.
I just love sim racing, and we can step into these guys' living rooms, their bedrooms, and see what they're actually doing. You know, there's probably a dog at their feet. There's probably, you know, some takeout right next to them. It's just a fun thing to do with your friends on Monday night, to show up for Monday Night Racing and race against some of the best in the sport, in real life and in sim racing, all here in one place.
2 things I want to say off of that point, which made a fantastic one, Darren. Number 1, if you're a sim racer and you've got a camera in your room and your bed is in it, you have to make sure it's made. Everybody will drag you if you don't have that bed made. And I've faced that too. I've had the camera in my room in the background and my bed there. I'm always making sure it's as clean as possible. The second thing there that you mentioned, which is such a great thing about sim racing and of Monday Night Racing, is that you get to compete against these guys who get the chance to race in real life, and drivers of different backgrounds. You look at Connor Berry, who is such a talented driver on the dirt road side of iRacing. Thinks he's running for the off-road championship. Berry, a rookie driver last season, he put up some great finishes, had some great moments. We're so excited to have Connor Berry in. And then you've got guys like Corey Heim, who was a part of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race last weekend in Mid-Ohio and got the win, and here he is on a Monday night racing with all these guys in the sim. So it's so cool to see the diversity of this series. But speaking of Connor Berry, he's got a lot to deal with. He gets into the number 60, who gets into James Bickford. And I am so sorry, Connor Berry, the 60 of Joe Zolo, gets into him, and that's our first caution, 22 laps into the Mach Digital 200.
Broadcasters jinx, Kenneth. Oh, what are we doing, man? Poor Connor Berry gets caught up in this. Looks like they just got 3 wide, and Joe Zola, who we've been talking about, his first start in Monday Night Racing, looks like he just gets the air off the back of the car and loops it around in the dog leg. Hard contact for both of those guys. We'll see how bad it is and if either of them can continue throughout the night. Break for Will Davis, though. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, a big break for Will Davis. He's able to get that wave around. Here's James Bickford, who gets a slight piece of the incident, and remarkably enough, he keeps that car straight, so he avoids further damage. But it was just a faulty push there going into that dogleg kink from the 02 to the 60, and brought the 60 down the track right up into the outside wall. And again, we mentioned no fast repairs for these guys, so they're going to have to spend that time on pit road getting it fixed. There's the push. No intention at all by Barry. Just wanted to push him further up to the front.
They're also 3 wide too, right? So you don't know what's going on in that car. If he came off the throttle a little bit, if the car started to just walk out a little bit, felt something in the wheel, and he slowed up just a little bit for Connor Berry to get into him. And regardless of the reasons why, we're under caution here at Atlanta, 24 laps in, with Joe Zolo and Connor Berry in the wall through the dogleg.
Our first caution, 24 laps into this race, and your leaders are on pit road. We do have 2 drivers that did stay out. That is James Bickford and Joseph Gregory, but everybody else has found their way in. You see all the drivers coming out right now. Will Davis with his stop. Presley Sora looks like he's going to beat Colin Fern out of the pit exit line, so a great job by Sora at only a 7-second stop. So it looks like that is mostly fuel only for driver number 98. He did not take tires on his stop. Everybody else took at least 4. A 15-second stop for Colin Fern, so everybody just taking the insurance. And let's talk tires at Atlanta, Darren. That's something that is not necessarily needed at Daytona or Talladega. We're going to see that later in this season. But for Atlanta, a track so narrow, a track way shorter in length, and where you're turning the car a lot more, your car's under a lot more pressure tire-wise, tires are really going to be a necessary conversation to have if we're talking about strategy.
Yeah, I think the strategy is really going to come into play significantly tonight throughout the field, whether it be the fuel or the fuel runs or the tires. You know, so much of the time you just make fun of racing guys for turning left, but there's so much that goes into the sport, so much that goes into the strategy, so much that goes into that 2-tire call late or to stay out like we've seen James Bickford do. You know, he's probably on his own strategy right now, and he is playing the race to how he sees it playing out in the long run. If it doesn't benefit him here to pit, then don't pit, as he looks to maintain the lead. And again, he was mid-pack on that last incident, had the door ripped off of his car basically. So, you know, why not stay out, get in fresh air, and clock some laps, maybe stay out of the trouble if it does arise here in the next couple laps.
Yeah, that's 100% true, and tires are really going to be a factor in this race, as we will get the 1 to green signal. Everybody doubled up behind the iRacing official Pace truck, and this race will be led by James Bickford. So despite almost being involved in that most recent caution, he stays out with minimal to no damage, and he is going to lead this race. Just Joseph Gregory in the 20 alongside him in row number 1. Well, if you've been enjoying our coverage of the Monday Night Racing Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital and this Mach10 Digital 200, we'll be back next Monday night, but that will be with the Gen 4 cars at Chicagoland. We'll take those high horsepower cars to Joliet, Illinois, and we'll see what they can do in that showdown of the Midwest. July 17th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, you'll find the coverage right here on Podium Esports. Still a lot left to be decided here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll see what James Bickford can do at the front. These guys got about 25 laps on their set of tires, so whether that will be a big detriment on this restart, we'll just have to find out. The 2-time winner in this series gets to the Geico restart zone. We'll hop on the gas pedal. We're back under green from Atlanta. Not as much of a push from behind from Sora. Gregory, though, got a great push from Colin Fern into turn 1.
Look at Gregory in that fast white race car. We talked about no stickers on this thing, and it's a little bit of pit strategy, but he's falling back a little bit right now, waiting on that push from Colin Fern to take hold as he rockets down the backstretch here in Atlanta. Looks like he is going to have the momentum into 3 and 4. Let's see if he can hold it back to the line. Joseph Gregory to the lead in 4.
What a great run by Gregory, but Colin Fern is having none of it. Will he find the help? Yes, he will. Mario Miranda is going to go up with him. We're 3 wide on the front straightaway, heading back for turn 1. Joseph Gregory almost nowhere to go. He's going to try and settle in right in front of Chase Cabry, but the 39 is also going to leave him for dead. Nick Olson jumps up top. We are still 3 wide, and Colin Fern gets back to the lead.
Man, dropping right like a rock goes Joseph Gregory, as Colin Fern played that perfectly. He knew exactly what he was doing. He looked like a chess master out there, just picking his moves through the field as he leads that lap. Corey Heim, though, marching his way through the field, now up to 3rd, and he's digging for some clean air on the outside.
Heim has been a pretty big mover so far. Started 18th, and he's now up to that 3rd running position as Joseph Gregory continues to try and find some space to get in either the inside or the outside. He has remained trapped in the middle lane with Monin Rahman on the outside. Mark Rabilis now on the inside of the racetrack, and contact between the two. Into Rabilis, up the racetrack, hard into the wall. They'll catch Joshua Slate, and that's our 2nd caution, just 6 laps after our first at lap 28.
I mean, you could kind of see it coming, right, Kenneth? That car was dropping through the field, the fast white race car that we had just talked about, trying for the lead, and maybe it was the tires, maybe it was just a lack of experience, but Joseph Gregory could not hold a pretty wheel and just bouncing off. Oh no, I guess he had a car come down on him, and it was just chaos from there.
It just looked like a slight bit of contact between the 20 and the 15, and you'll see it here. It's almost minuscule, really hard to tell. And this is a look from Matt Alberson. Right about here is where they're going to make the contact out of turn 4. Puts Gregory down the track into Rabilis. They go hard into the wall, and then Gregory just gets spat back out to the bottom of the track where he catches Joshua Slate. Nice job by Matt Alberson to avoid that situation. It looks like Matthew Kent in the 31 also finds a way through it. He had an unbelievable avoidance, as here's a look from Dale Tanhart.
Not on with Tanhart right now, but a lot Matt Kent just getting through there. We can't even attribute that to skill. That was a lot of luck at that point as he weasels his way through that wreck, and looks like he comes out unscathed.
Well, nice job by the 31 to get out of harm's way, and he went right into the iRacing chat and said, in lower caps. He cannot believe he got through that incident, and he is going to be 16th as a result. He gets by, and the whole field picks up the iRacing official pace truck with Colin Fern in the race lead. Let's bring in Matthew Kent, driver of the number 31 Ford Mustang, and Matthew, I have to believe the reaction insane. You barely got by that incident. What was going through your brain there as the caution happened right in front of you?
Hey guys, can you guys hear me? I've got a little messy audio, but I'm guessing you asked about the wreck. Just missed it barely. I saw the one car go flying across my windshield, and just kept the wheel straight and prayed.
Well, you were able to get by that incident without any damage on that flawless Ford Mustang. Let's talk about the racing here at Atlanta. What have you felt behind the wheel, and what has it been like to race with the field so far over these first 30 laps?
Yeah, it's been fun. Early on these tires, a little slick on the high side, but once they get some heat in them, they grips up really well. And obviously, it's just watching your pushes and being in the mid pack. It's just trying not to run over anyone or get run over, and just make the moves when they come. So it's been a lot of fun with everyone out here. Hoping for a lot more. Got about 100 more to go.
All right, well, a long way to go, but you're running pretty right now. Car's looking good. Matthew, of course, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on the next restart.
Thank you, guys.
So that is Matthew Kent, who gets by that incident. He will restart in about the top 15 or so, going to be on the outside of row number 8. So I believe that will be 16th, right on the outside of Steve Alfon. So ready to get back under green, and 2 crashes there, and we've seen both of them in a row on the front straightaway, either coming out of turn 4 or entering that first dog leg. How dangerous is that part of the track at Atlanta with this new configuration?
I mean, the cars get light coming out of 4, right? And a short shoot down into the dog leg. It's always a tricky part of the track. The transition there from 4 into that dog leg where the banking drops off just a little bit sets the cars light just a little bit. I don't really know if that was a situation of the track though, or the conditions, or just that slower car of Gregory, like maybe disturbing the air a little bit. You can't really say. What we do know though is there's a bunch of torn up race cars and a different shuffling to the field, as we've got all cars back on the lead lap, at least the ones that are running. Great news for Podium Esports league owner Gary Sexton. He is back on the lead lap after that incident on pit road to start the race as Colin Fern leads into the green and into one. Nice jump for the 96 of Colin Fern.
And good news there for Sexton. He is 27th on this restart. Colin Fern is going to lead them into turns 1 and 2. The help by Nick Olsen. These two have been attached by the hip. It feels like most of this race ever since they've been able to move up to the front. But now they've got that part of the equation in Corey Heim. What can he do to get around these two, and will he find some extra help? So far, he has not pulled out of line. The only opposition to these guys on the high side leading the race is Mario Miranda, but they're starting to fall back quite a bit. And Darren, we're seeing a similar phenomenon to what we saw at Daytona. Once that outside gets organized, got all those drivers running clean, you're going to have that top side be heavy.
And you see the guys that are up there are Monday Night Racing regulars, right? Like, they know what to do. They know that there's a lot of racing.
Straightaway contact. Miranda into Cummings, and they save it.
Let's see if they save it. Miranda's trying to blend in with traffic, coming into 3 and 4. It looks like he either will or come into the pits, but everybody gets by. We stay green here at Atlanta with Colin Fern maintaining the lead. But as I was saying, kind of like, these guys know what they're doing. They know it's a long race. There's a lot of just professional Monday Night Racing drivers here. The top 10 is chock with them, and they know that we've got a long way to go in this one. And let's just get there as quickly as possible. And if that's staying single file, that's cool. And if that means Corey Heim leads the pack, he's going to die for it in 3 and 4. Coming to the line, though, Colin Fern looks like he'll maintain the lead and lead that one with a push from Nick Olsen.
Leading at the line, the 96 of Fern, second place to Olsen, now third place occupied by Corey Heim, the previous Monday Night Racing Pro Series champion back in season number 6. Still looking to get his first win of the Summer Series, getting the help from the 2-time winner into turns 3 and 4. And a good run for Heim on the bottom end of the racetrack. He will even out with that 96. We are gridlocked for the top spot here at Atlanta. Fern is going to lead them to the stripe, though, barely by a couple of feet. And a good push by Nick Olsen. Boy, these two, Darren, have been so good working together. Feels like it's really hard to separate them in any circumstance. But here come the Toyotas fighting back on the bottom.
And, you know, I just thought 2 laps ago that maybe we'll get this single file. Maybe we'll click off a bunch of laps here. Just get them over nice, tidy, and quick. But the boys are now racing as Colin Fern bobbles just a little bit, trying to get that side draft off Corey Heim in 3. He will lead this lap once again. What a heck of a battle. What a heck of a show these guys are putting on tonight.
You've seen some really good stuff and a big mover inside the top 10. You could look at Lane Sabile. Started this race in 28th, and the former championship Ford driver has settled into the top 10. He was also the teammate of Corey Heim, that Hog Tamers organization that they built up over the last season or so. They've been really strong together. And Lane Sabile, we know him as a prime super speedway racer in this series. He has won multiple super speedway races in Monday Night Racing history. His first win of his M&R career came at a super speedway. That was with the Next Gens at Talladega, and ran well at the other super speedways from there on out. So keep an eye on that 25 car as he moves to the high side right in front of DJ Cummings, and it forces the inside to pick up more of the slack. So more drivers starting to move out.
Sorry, Kenneth, I just got caught up in being a fan and watching this racing. Just incredible stuff here from Atlanta as we look into the back of Presley Soares' car. Season 5 champion. These guys are on, I think everybody up front right now is on fresh tires with the exception of James Bickford in 5th. So we'll have to see how that strategy actually plays out for Beckford as he's battling right now 4th or 5th, dancing around there in the top 5 though. He is on a different strategy than everybody else here right now. So what will James Bickford do, and how will that play into the later stages of this race? We've got to stay tuned to find out.
Yeah, I'm sure that we're going to see something happen with the strategy of Bigford. And it might be dangerous, right? If you look at it, Darren, because Bigford is now running 40 laps without coming down pit road once. Yeah, the rest of the field has. So how dangerous is that if we get a long green flag run?
He's got to be nearing the end of his fuel window at this point, right, Kenneth? Like, we were trying to figure out in the pre-race what that fuel window looks like, but we were guessing somewhere around 40 to 50 laps, 45 laps or so. So it's getting real nip and tuck right now for the strategy that James Bickford's playing as he's dropping back just a little bit, now back to the 8th position.
And that inside line continues to dissipate. We have not seen many find success down there. The outside just continues to dominate. Lane Sabile is trying to find hope down there. Maybe coop up with his teammate, Corey Heim. So far, not successful, so he'll drop back in line. James Bickford, Brandon Houff, Dylan Connolly, who were just on board with a little bit ago, and it looks like Steve Alfont, all of them are maintaining position on the bottom. They're just trying to see if things will work down there, but it seems like that's not the place to be if you want to be leading this race. Colin Fern leads him to the stripe 42 laps in to this Mach 10 Digital 200 from Atlanta. It's been a rather clean race apart from those 2 consecutive cautions we had at around lap 22 and then lap 28. And we are approaching, again, another driver lap down. That is Josh Late.
Just looks like the point in time when it looks like Josh Slate's already 2 laps down, so he's been having issues this evening. I think he was caught up in one of those earlier accidents, so it's looking like he's going to go 3 laps down, still running to the 29th position, though, as Mario Miranda's the only car even off the pace at this point, still on the lead lap, about 20 seconds back. So we're just watching right now for that lapper, as the slow cars really have kind of played into the storyline of tonight's race. We saw Joseph Gregory get kind of caught up in that last caution as one of the slower cars on the track, not taking tires on the previous pit stop. So we'll have to see how the field navigates by this lap car.
Well, yeah, it also looks like whenever we get 3 wide, we find trouble. We've seen a lot of 2 wide action tonight. It's been relatively clean. But as soon as they go 3 wide, somebody makes a mistake when you're so close, you find trouble. It's been something we've seen tonight. It's really
narrow track, dirty air. It's been a couple weeks since these guys have been in this Monday Night Racing League, so they're maybe not as familiar with the setups and the drivers around them. So when you've got room to dance, it's fun to dance, but when you're in close quarters at the club just bumping into each other, it just might not be as much fun as we see those close quarters shoring up right now through 1 and 2 as the field tries to navigate around that lap car. And
sure
struggling with it a little bit.
Yeah, they really are struggling. Brandon Houff was swerving all over the place. Him, Dylan Connolly, and then Steve Alfont, all of them trying to find their place in the middle of 3 wide, trying to get to the outside of Josh Slade. We've seen all the lap cars hold out on the bottom. We've never seen them go to the top. They're either always on the bottom of the track and trying to go to the apron, and then everyone else on the lead lap is trying to get to the outside. Things got really close there. Brandon Houff slotted up in line right in front of Matt Alverson. That checked them up quite a bit. Let's here's a look from DJ Cummings. And I think here, Darren, you're probably just on a Sunday cruise, right? You're all single file. Nobody's giving you any fuss. You're just kind of chilling right now.
That's exactly what I would want to be doing right now. I do want to call attention to a little story that I see shaping up, and that is the 13 of Gary Sexton. All the way now up to the 18th, 19th position after going 2 laps down early. He's unlapped himself, and at lap 47 of the race, he's charging up through the field, probably past 10, 12 cars here under the green. And Gary, we know, is a fantastic super speedway racer. So while he looked out of it, literally spun sideways on pit road to start this thing, he is dicing through the field, coming up through 3 and 4, making some, what does that say, spicy moves? Dare I say spicy moves from Gary Sexton as he looks to avenge that early struggle that he had here at the onset of tonight's race.
You know, I knew that we were going to make a pun about the spicy sponsorship, and I didn't know whether it was going to be you or me. I was pretty sure I was going to bust in the door and come up with an absolutely terrible joke. But I think you got it there. That was a good way to describe the run for Gary Sexton right now. And you're right. I mean, Daytona showed us just how good of a racer he is at these tracks. He knows where to place his car. He is aggressive sometimes at the right times, and in many cases, he finds a way to balance that passiveness and then the aggression sometimes.
Right.
Maybe it goes a little overboard, but for the most part, he has that under control, and that's been it's been so awesome about watching Gary Sexton these tracks. He knows what to do, and he shows it.
And to that point too, like at Daytona, he was really on the defensive late in that race, trying to hold those guys off, and that's how he got that quarter panel damage that kind of slowed him down and sent him back a little bit. He's on the offensive tonight, right? He's got nothing to lose. He started this race 2 laps down, so he's going all to the wall right now, and he's marching up near the top 10 at this point. Go Gary, go!
Well, you know what Rocky Balboa said in Creed 2, when a fighter's got nothing to lose, he's dangerous, and Gary Sexton is dangerous right now, still moving up through the field. We'll keep an eye on him, but he has found his way inside the top 15. One of those drivers on the bottom end of the racetrack. You see him tucked in behind the 95 of Dylan Connolly. Here's the 41 of Matt Stonick, who's also a pretty big mover tonight. Darren, he started dead last, and the 41, who started 34th, is now 16th.
Shotgun on the field for Matt Stonick. He's into the wall right there, but he keeps the pace up. He's looking for a little bit of racing room on the high side. It's going to cost him a little bit, but again, a great move, great run right now out of Matt Stonick, who did start shotgun on the field because he kind of just lost track of how many qualifying laps we had. So no real fault of his own. I guess it actually was completely fault of his own. As we got a car on the wall, slow car in the wall, coming in the dogleg. It looks like we're going to stay green for the time being, though, as Stolnak continues his march to the front.
And that was the 99 of Mark Rabillas. So we talked about lap cars and their tendency to move down on the track and let everybody by. Rabillas was one of the only ones, and the exception, to be on the outside, right up against that outside wall. Big run by Olsen, sent to Sabile, and it sends Olsen sideways into the middle of the field. He gets into his Grit Esports teammate. Bam, here comes the 41 of Stolnik, and somehow they all keep it straight. So race control does not call the caution, but those are 2 Grit Esports cars taken out in one fell swoop.
What a bummer for everybody involved. Olsen has been running basically second to the 96 for this last, we'll say 30 laps or so. And looks like he just bobbles a little bit, and the 25, Sabile, gets a little bit aggressive, and it's on from there. And again, the broadcaster jinx into play. Matt Stolnak, we had just been singing his praises, marching up from the back of the field, and he gets involved in it as well.
A really tough break for Brandon Howe if you take a look at the perspective of the 9 car. Meanwhile, they're absolutely duking it out for the top spot. They almost caused a caution. In the meantime, while we were looking at this incident, and you look at Howe slowing down, there comes the 41 right into the back end of Olsen's machine. So tough break for all 3 of them. This is the battle for the run up front. Lane Sabile has charged up to the P1 spot. He's getting pushed by Chase Cabry in the 39, but we saw some close calls between guys like Colin Fern, Sabile, and Presley Sora. Here comes Cabry with no help on the bottom. He'll look for the lead, but to no avail.
It's just a dogfight at this point, Kenneth. This is just an absolute dogfight, and the dog I want to see come out on top in this one is Colin Fern. He is hungry. He is looking for the win as they're in the wall. This is absolutely going to bring the caution out. Finally, they turn him sideways. Presley Sora, I see, and a DJ Cummings in it, and there's going to be a handful more when we see who doesn't make it around.
And it finally boils over. The battle for the lead ends in a spinning crash between 2 Ford Mustangs, the 10 of Cummings and the 98 of Presley Sora. So they both travel down to the apron and they go up into the outside wall, and we'll see what happened. Look at them, 3 wide, and Cummings is trying to decide where he's going to go. Sora gets a bit of contact there, Darren. I believe that was by, I think that was as he was going up to Chase Cabry.
I'm not actually going to be able to tell you who was in it because I was watching who got through it. It looks like the top 4 made it through, and then everybody else there on back probably got a piece of it. It looks like Bickford was able to skate through, and this caution's actually probably going to come into play for him, as he'll be able to come down pit road and maybe get on sync with the rest of these guys on tires and fuel.
That's a really good point. Yeah, we've been watching that 29 all night long in the way that he hasn't pitted, so lap 56 could be the money lap for driver number 29 to come in. So here's another look at exactly what happened. That was Chase Cabry looking for the lead, and then he has absolutely no help there on the inside until it finally arrives in the form of the 98. You've seen them 3 wide here. Watch that second car on the inside lane slowly drift up. Right there, he gets into Sexton. He gets a piece of the damage. Tough break for him. Him and Stonick, biggest movers tonight, and they end up in a pretty tough scenario as those are the 2 Ford Mustangs that get involved. The good news, though, Darren, is that not much damage for either of them, so they should be able to continue.
It's still a bummer, though, for Sexton after we've been singing his praises all night long. The kid was able to drive up to, it looked like the top 10 after being 2 laps down. Just got caught up in that one. But, hey, that's racing, and anyone in the field tonight will admit that that's just racing.
Tough racing incident for those guys, and we're going to be under caution for the third time this evening here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. We've seen a lot of drivers or a lot of teammates, you know, have a lot of moments here tonight from Atlanta. We've seen Chapman going crazy tonight, and a lot of them are talking about Joe Zolo. And Joe, first of all, welcome to the broadcast on Podium Esports. Glad to have you, part of our M&R Summer Series. Just walk us through what the night has been. I know the car's on pit road right now. You've got some damage, but what's it been like to race with these guys from Atlanta tonight?
Oh man, it's been an absolute blast. I've watched these guys the past couple seasons, and to be able to get out here on track with them is it's quite fun. I can tell you that much.
I can imagine it's fun, but it has to be hectic, right? It's Atlanta Super Speedway race. What was the mindset for you early in the going before that first piece of contact that you had on the front straightaway?
I kind of thought just, you know, try to stay out of the way, try not to be noticed, but I just wanted to stay in the running. You know, obviously having a clean race is the top priority, and that's obviously not happening right now. But just trying to make the best of it, really, and see how far up front we can get.
Hey, let's talk about this car, the paint scheme that you've got. I love the Syracuse orange. Talk to us a bit about that and the paint scheme for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined the league, I saw we had to, you know, have the contingency decals and stuff, and I was like, you know what? I don't really have a true paint scheme I run that's mine, so you know, I figured why not make one and from Syracuse, and figured it'd be fun to make up. So I put it together, and here we are.
All right, well, it's a beautiful Chevrolet Camaro. Go orange, as we'll say. But a nice car tonight, Joe. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck on the restart here from Atlanta.
Yes, thank you for having me, guys.
All right, so that is Joe Zolo, who's going to be restarting back in the 21st starting position. He's in the same row as Brett Baldick, pretty far back in the field, but he's still got a shot to be in this race. He's right behind Brandon Half, who got a piece of the contact off of the almost caution that came out for the actual caution just a couple of laps prior. We've got Hog Tamers at the front of the field, the two teammates, Lane Tabile and Corey Heim, leading this field back to green. The Mach10 Digital 200 gets back underway, lap number 59.
Clean looking restart for the guys right now. Hopefully we'll be able to crank out another nice little green flag run like we just had as they fan out into one. That's the first time that they've gotten single file that early on in a run, as they are single file down. I was going to say single file down the backstretch, and the camera changed for me, and we've got a battle for second and probably for the lead as we look into turn 3 and 4. And of course it is Colin Fern stepping out of line and trying to rile up and put a show on at the front of the field.
I was wondering how long it would take before Colin Fern would try and gun out for the race lead, and it did not take long at all. The only thing that he was missing was some proper help. Now he's got it with the 29 of James Bickford. They're going to come out of turn 2. 96 finds a space up top, so he'll settle in right behind Chase Cavery. But Colin Fern was doing something, Darren, that he talked about a lot at Daytona earlier in the season, was side drafting. Here with these next gen cars, get up right in that quarter panel, could take the air off the driver's spoiler and lose some miles per hour, and you can get speed on it.
Yeah, he's not content to ride either. He's just not content to ride. We saw that on that last run when I was talking about him being a hungry dog and looking for the lead, and he is starving for that lead. He held that lead for, we'll say, 25 laps up until just a little bit ago, and he wants it back badly. He is not content to ride. A lot of these other guys look like they're fairly content just to enjoy the next couple laps incident-free. Colin Fern is not one of them, and he is looking for a push, any push, to get to the lead at this point.
And he is not satisfied with running 3rd, 4th, or 5th, even 2nd. He wants to be commanding this race, and he doesn't care who pushes him to the front. Right now, it's Michael Fisher in the 30, the car who had the pole time for a while in qualifying before he got beat a little bit by some of the other drivers around him. But Michael Fisher with a great start tonight from Atlanta, and a rather clean Ford Mustang running 2nd on the inside.
Hey, we were just riding on board with Jonathan Goke, and shout out to him once again. He held his own through wasn't able to lead a lap after setting on the pole, but he was able to hang out in the top 5 for a while. I did watch him fall back to about 20th before that last caution, and now he's up again, battling in the top 10, right around the top 5. So great run, great solid evening for him as we near the midway point of this race.
And really good stuff out of driver 08. He's done a really nice job of hanging in there and keeping a clean race car. That's something you got to keep it all priority here at Atlanta, especially in this format where you don't have that fast repair to get a clean race car if you do get into a crash. So Goka's going to be inside the top 10. He is still in that side-by-side battle with James Bickford, as here is Brandon Brown, a driver who has also done a great job of moving up through the field. He started tonight in 32nd after a qualifying time that was not necessarily the one to remember, but Brandon Brown, a nice job of being on the inside, and I guess giving us a preview, Darren, of what to expect next week. Got the Chicagoland shirt on.
That one's spinning. We got one spinning. It is Colin. It looks like Colin.
That is Colin Fern towards the apron, but he saves it. We're going to stay green, and I believe it was somewhat of a faulty push by Michael Fisher. Yes, it was. Unsettled the 96. He keeps it straight by locking up the brakes, and here's a look at what happened.
And we talked about him just going for the lead and trying anything he could, taking any push he could, as it looks like Corey Heim dives down on him. A little rub and is racing right there into the out of 4. And it is that faulty push that just turns him sideways. He's able to keep it out of traffic and keep all 4 wheels under it. So tough break for Colin Furnace. He's been probably one of the most exciting drivers on the track up at the front of the pack all night long. But he was able to keep it out of the fence, and he lives to fight another lap, does Colin Fern. He is losing a little bit of touch with the field, though, as is to be expected with an incident like that.
He's going to have to hope for a yellow to slow the field down. It's going to be a long way to pick himself back up. We're going to cross the line for lap number 67. We are now beyond halfway. We are 3 wide for position, now inside the top 5. How about our front stretch post-race show co-host, Brandon House, moving through the field.
Brandon House moving to the field. Nick Olson a little bit sideways. I mean, these are all the names that you always hear on Monday Night Racing, and they are in a dogfight at the front of the field. There goes Presley Soar in the 98. He was just wrapped up in that last caution, and here he comes back to 7th place, battling, looking for any line, any push to get back up to the lead.
It just shows you that this race is not over until it's over, and no matter how tough of a race you've had, it can easily turn around for you. Brandon Howe got caught up in an incident that did not bring out a yellow with his Grit Esports teammate Nick Olson. Now he's second on the inside lane. Mario Miranda, who had a tough moment, got sent to the back of the field. He's now inside the top 3, and he's looking for second, possibly the lead into turns 3 and 4.
Oh, he's turning right to go left right there, but he's still gaining on the lead. Coming to the dog leg, it's going to be a photo finish at the line for the lead on that lap. Miranda, though, he was hovering around the back of the pack through that last series of cautions, and here he is in the OU colors, battling for the lead against one of the best in the business on super speedways in Leighton Subile.
A Sooner Esports driver, Mario Miranda, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, drove in the NASCAR College iRacing Series and was very excited to start M&R and the Summer Series when we began at Daytona a couple of weeks back in June. So Miranda making the most of his situation right now with a push from Brandon Howe, and it's still not able to officially get him the lead over Leighton Subile, who's got that prime pushed by the 11 of Corey Heim, but it's good enough to get him to second. And once again, Darren, we're back 2 wide, all the way from the front to the back of the first pack.
And you know what? You can see, again, we'll call attention to Corey Heim. We've been seeing him ride 2nd and 3rd all night long, and I think he's happy to ride right there. Play it safe. Let the Colin Ferns and the Leighton Subiles get into that dogfight. He's just gonna ride within touch of the leaders, influence the race to his discretion, and then put the moves on that he feel are safe to keep him in this, but also have the best chance to win this at the end of the night. Great run right now for Corey Heim as he battles second into the outside lane.
Try his best to stay there, as it looks like Jonathan Goat got put out of line, and he hooks the 24 into the outside wall. Caution is out again.
Big impact.
And Nick Olson's night just gone from bad to worse as he gets hooked at a turn 4.
That, in real life, would be firewall deep, and we would not be driving that car away. There would be an ambulance screaming down to the dog leg right now, so it's good to see Nick Olson driving away from that one. As Goke up high, I've been watching him here in the late going, and he just comes down and hooks Nick Olson. Just maybe a little bit of, what do we say, inexperience, lack of awareness at that point out of the 08 car. Great run he had going on, running 3rd in that outside lane, just washes up a little bit into 3 and 4, loses a couple positions, tries to hold his line down there, coming out of 4 into the dog leg. And again, that's a tricky part of the racetrack. And if you're not aware of what's inside of you, it's going to end in disaster like we just saw.
And it looks like the 08 just got a little bit too low. We've got Joe Zolo around before the entrance of pit road. Not sure exactly what happened there. That was trouble rather early on before the round of stops. And it looks like as he was trying to go in, he got the apron transition and sent the car sideways hard into the outside wall. But it looks like everybody is on pit road. Presley Sora is going to lead them out with a fuel-only call, 5.4 seconds. Rather interesting that we've seen Darren Sora not take tires in this race.
Sora hasn't taken tires, and I guess this now will be James Bickford's first stop? Question mark. Can we check in on that? But yeah, the pit strategy is just something that is. I don't know if it really matters at this point. You know, we saw Bickford hang out for so long on older tires, and it seems like it's really paid off for him. Maybe he kid even had contact and didn't come down pit road, and now he's running in solidly the top 10, maybe even the top 5 right now. We'll have to see how they sort out coming out of the pits. It is Bickford's second stop, so he was able to take tires earlier. He's back on sync with anybody, but that earlier strategy to stay out and gain that track position does look like it's playing out for him. Playing out well.
Seventh here by the time we get the next restart. Everybody behind the iRacing official pace truck and the lap car in front. That is Mark Rubilas, who makes his way back out onto the racing surface. Just a reminder that the Monday Night Racing Summer Series is brought to you by Mach10 Digital, your partner for stunning video production and digital marketing solutions. From concept to creation, they bring your vision to life with precision and creativity. Elevate your brand with captivating visuals and impactful messaging. From weddings to real estate videography, contact them today at Mach10digital.com for digital excellence. Mach10 Digital, where innovation meets creativity. So it's going to be Presley Sora, the Season 5 Monday Night Racing Pro Series champion, leading us to green. Championship 4 driver from Season 6 on the M&R Pro Series, Lane Sabile on the outside. And then you've got the rookie driver, Mario Miranda, in row number 2. Corey Heim, the defending champion, in row number 2, P4. Matthew Kent, we interviewed him earlier, Darren, but he's done a great job of moving up through the field. He's now inside the top 5. 6th place going to Brandon Houff. Chase Cabry, 7th. James Bickford, Dylan Connolly, and Cole Cabry, the 51 car, rounding out the current top 10. Look at the driver wall. Everybody and their reactions.
Everybody's just cruising, focused, right? Looks like Bickford's taking a little sip of something, staying hydrated, but everybody's still in the battle tonight. Good to see Nick Olson still in the seat after that hard hit. As again, we're coming up on halfway through this race. This is when the money gets made. 57 laps to go as the pace truck pulls off here at Atlanta, and man, that car was just in the wall, but he's leading him to the green. Presley Sora in the 98 Ford Mustang, bringing him down as the flagman waves it green.
56 laps to go, and a great start by Presley Sora, who had monumental help from behind with Corey Heim on the rear bumper. I'm surprised that Sabile and Heim didn't exactly work together directly on that restart. Sabile is left for dust on the outside. The only bit of support now coming from Miranda, but Heim is going to slot up, so he will pick up his Hog Tamer's teammate. We are door to door for the lead. The Ford Mustang on the bottom and the Camry up top.
Side by side, we saw them get single file pretty quickly on that last restart, but they're battling for this one. As great camera work from the booth, great production value right there. As there he comes, Corey Heim. We've been talking about him all night long, just biding his time. It looks like his time has come with Leighton Sabile on his back bumper. Corey Heim into the lead, onto the backstretch, and he's got the momentum. He's a little sideways though. Sabile in the wall after that errant bump, but looks like they maintain the status quo into 3 and 4. Corey Heim leading him around with a battle on the low side from Presley Sora. He's got help out back from the 9 of Houff. Great side-by-side action, pace lap quality action here from Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Still no leader, convincing lead decided. Corey Heim, the Marietta, Georgia native, still holding on to the lead of this race, but by a bare minimum. Looks like Preston Sora is going to hold it still on the bottom end of the racetrack. The nice push by the Grit Esports Camaro of Brandon Houff. Car sideways, and it's Cole Cabry right in the middle of the field, up to the outside wall. Quick yellow. Cole Cabry with significant damage as he parks it on the apron and turns 3 and 4.
I didn't see what happened on that one. Was it an errant bump, Kenneth? I guess we're going to get the replay in real time. Cabry right there on the outside in the 51. DJ Cummings behind him. Looks like the field. What do we have happening here? Let's watch it in real time down the back stretch. And, oh. Wow. Well, that was, as they say, uncalled for. Looks like the 30 car was going for a hole that just wasn't open at all. There was no hole there to even attempt to be open. And big caution on the backstretch here in Atlanta.
And you saw the hit there to DJ Cummings in the 10 car. That's the second caution that he's involved in. He got some heavy right front damages. We'll look at it here from Ford Martin, who we haven't talked about all night long. The driver of the 07. He sees it happen right in front of him, and he almost about has nowhere to go as he goes right up into the track, into the 10. That's a hard hit.
Big hit. Big hit. Lot of big hits taking place here in the middle part of this race. We've been slowed down a lot by cautions. Big hit for Nick Olson, Ford Martin. It's good that we're sim racing because we would be racing to the hospital at this point if this was real life. Huge hit into the door of DJ Martin on that one, or DJ Cummings on that one. But there we go with the 81. Yeah, it looks like the 81 was able to make it through. Dale Tanhart hadn't been able to say his name a lot tonight after his second place run at Daytona. Hanging out of the back of the pack, but from what I've been able to see, has been able to keep a clean car throughout the first half of this race. So he'll be in contention here at the end of it if he's able to maintain the fenders on that thing.
A bulk of drivers on pit road. They're trying to rejoin the field, but it is Corey Heim in command of the Mach10 Digital 200. We'll be right back in a moment from Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Mach 10. Let's give Mach 10.
You're clear for takeoff.
FrontStretch.com, providing up-to-date news, analysis, and commentary on all the latest in the world of motorsports. Check out Front Stretch YouTube page for post-race content after the checker flag waves for most NASCAR events, giving you up-close interviews with your favorite drivers and the stories that matter each weekend. For the best seat of the track and the best view on the web, visit FrontStretch.com.
Request permission to engage with the test conducted staff. Over.
Welcome back to coverage of the Mach10 Digital 200, ready for a restart inside 50 laps to go from Hampton, Georgia. And Corey Heim leads us back to the green flag. Lane Tabile to give him the push behind, and that outside struggles to get that run into turn one. Brandon Houff and Presley Sora going to try and fight back on the top, but it is no match for the three-car train out of turn two.
Those Hog Tamers cars were bumping each other before they came to the line. Great push from Leighton Stabile onto Corey Himes. Got him in the lead into 3 and 4. But here comes the run from Presley Sora, Season 5 champion. He's got the run in the low side. Momentum goes to the 98 as he ekes out a lead. Let's see if Corey Heim can nip him at the line. And it will be Corey Heim maintaining the lead. Incredible racing once again from Atlanta from these Monday Night Racing drivers.
And we saw Presley Sora into the outside wall of the back straightaway going for turn 3, and all of a sudden he is back up at the very front. The big push by the great esports Camaro of Brandon Houff, still not enough to get to those guys on the outside. That's been a trend all night long, Darren. If you're on that bottom, you're having to work way harder to get the lead. That outside seems to be content running up there and really fast.
And if these drivers were watching, which I'm sure they are, they can see that they can make a run at the lead and may be able to nip a guy at the line with a run from the outside, go low around him, kind of like a little slingshot slide job type deal. But you can't maintain really the position on the bottom as we see Sora falling back. Maybe you can get a run if you have help, but you've got a limited as car in the wall. It is Jonathan Goke. Once again, his night going from bad to worse. Just one more caution onto the night with 47 to go as the Air Force car into the wall in what looks like 1 and 2.
The Air Force car with a big hit to the outside safer barrier, and it was because of 3 wide action on the back straightaway. We saw it somewhat in the mid-pack, but it was further back in the field where Goat got involved. Here's a look at the replay, Darren, and see exactly what happened here. Look at that 13 in the 08.
He's got Gary behind him. He's got Brett below him, and it looks like he's just closing in on Zola. What do we see there? It looks like he might have just backed off a little bit, as there might have been a little bit of a shimmy or a shake out of the 60 of Zolo. Looks like he might have got out of the gas a little bit before Gary got into them. We're going to go on board with the 13, that spicy camera, as it looked like, oh man, that just looks like a racing deal to me as Gary's on the wall. Looks like Gary was a little bit low, and Goke didn't know he was there, and it all went for naught as they went into 3.
And looking to hear from the driver of the 41, Matt Stolnick, his perspective of the incident. As they go sideways, right in front of him, you'll see Sexton there through the middle. Just no space there to maneuver and right into the outside wall, but Sonic does a fantastic job of mowing that Ford Mustang down and keeping it from harm's way. Nice job.
Let's give a shout out again. We just did to Dale Tanhart. He was able to avoid another one there and keep it clean. Great awareness. And able to cut it low real quick there and avoid the pileup. Still maintaining the top 20-ish position for Tanhart, but still in the run and way out in the back of the pack.
And Tanhart's going to be one of those drivers to hit pit road. We've seen a lot of those guys come in, and I imagine here, Darren, it's to try and make it to the end of this race, because we've seen in many ways where the caution has come out, and then we've seen drivers come in near the back, but necessarily we have seen the strategy unfold too, because these guys continue to stay out. We are still within around about more than 40 laps to go, which could be a fuel window. Things might get really close between these guys.
Yeah, you know, we saw the fuel come into play last week as Bickford really ran out coming to the line. So on the super speedway deal, though, and as aggressive as these guys get and the triple overtime that we saw them go into at Daytona, I'd like to have a little bit of fuel on board. I'd like to have maybe a little bit of a fresher tire to go along with that at the end. But after what was really a first quarter of the race that was really kind of clean, we've run through a rash of cautions here. So hopefully that doesn't continue for the rest of the evening. But yeah, the guys that we've seen up front and we kind of expected to be up front are still maintaining that lead up front. The Corey Himes of the world and the Leighton Sabile. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's any challengers for deep in the pack. The Dale Tanharts, we keep mentioning him. He hasn't really had the showing, the numbers up front, the laps in the top 10 that we all talk about. We haven't seen him do that all night long, but maybe a guy like that could step up with a clean car here in the last 40 laps or so and make a run for the checkered flag here at the end of it.
And we might see a driver throw a knockout punch, but how about that Hog Tamers team? They have been so good tonight. Absolute domination between Sabile and Heim. Every time they get nose to tail, it's really hard to beat them once they're up at the top side of the racetrack. We've seen guys like Colin Fern try to break them up, and the same goes for Presley Sora. We'll see if anybody else tries to put their hat in the ring. With a restart here with 44 laps remaining from Atlanta. Still a long way to go, so a lot left to decide. A fuel window left to be determined as well. We've seen a lot of guys in the back pit. Guys at the front have stayed out. They are currently on 13-lap old tires and 13 laps on their tank of gas. So here comes Corey Heim, Lane Sabile. Row number 1, outside and inside pace truck is down, and it is all to the discretion of driver number 11, who will lead him through the restart zone, and we're back under green in the Mach10 Digital 200.
Yeah, let's see how these Hog Tamers sort this out, if there's a little bit of a deal going on right here, and it looks like there is, as it was Sabile who lifted off and let Heim get in front of him, but that's going to open the door for the outside lane. Here comes Presley Sora charging to the outside. Now he's got the preferred lane on the outside. I'm sorry, that is
up there.
Yeah.
And that moves Miranda to the lead. So a new race leader from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Brandon Howe going to move as the third car on the outside. Michael Fisher, what an absolutely fantastic run it's been for him. He wobbles a bit out of turn 4, but it's good enough to keep that run going. Now he moves to the bottom, and he makes contact with Miranda.
Boy, the teammate deal did not work out on that one, and it was almost like Miranda knew what was coming. He knew that they were going to back off to let Heim down low, and now it's got both of those guys back in the bottom half of the top 5 as Miranda to the lead with Fisher on the inside. We've got some new guys at the front of the field for the first time in a long time as those Hog Tamer guys look to battle back on the inside of the racetrack.
Going to for sure. Miranda's going to back out, but he does not find the help. We're 3 wide for second. A bit of a bobble there by Fisher as he got the push from Brandon Howe from the 89. Tried his dearest to move the 30 out of the way. He's loose up the track. 4 wide in turn 2, and we keep it together.
Incredible driving, incredible saves out of these guys. We know these new gen cars just are able to hold on, and you can drive them all over the place, but incredible saves throughout the field all night long. And of course, Corey Heim out front with his teammate Leighton Sabile behind him. Great run, and I guess the strategy finally paid off for the Hog Tamers guys as they maintain the lead.
And they're loving the view behind them as they're 3 wide fighting for position. They can run single file and do whatever they please there, and that's been the thing for them all night long. As you look at Dakota Curtis, a driver who started back in 33rd, he's also a big mover tonight. He is up to 12th, and one of those guys is sort of pioneering that inside before you get to those 3 cars that are leading the charge on the bottom. This one is with Presley Sora, Chase Cabry, and James Bickford. They're trying their hardest to maintain a run on the bottom. But Hog Tamer stays up front unfazed as always.
I'll tell you who's going to try to phase him. Let's give a shout out to Colin Fern, back up to 9th after his spin. Those last rash of cautions really helping him out. He's now back up within the top 10, trying for the top 6, looking for a little bit of help there on the outside. And Colin Fern, man, if there's anybody who looks like they will not be denied tonight, it is the 96 of Colin Fern.
And if there is a go point, Darren, at this stage of the race, 39 laps to go, when is it? Are we looking at inside 10 to go? Are we looking at less than that? When is the go now part of the race?
I think it depends on where you are in the field. If you're outside of the top 10, it's 20 to go. If you're inside the top 10, it's 10 to go. But again, that's all part of the strategy that you got to lay out and the help around you. Honestly, if you got the run and got the help, you go. It doesn't matter if it's 25 to go, if it's 38 to go. If you're Dale Tanhart in the back of the pack, you're going. If now, you got to go now. You got to get the track position that you need to. And hey, at this point, if you wreck the digital race car, it's no skin off your back. And if you wreck going for the lead or the track position at this point, we've seen so many guys be able to reset and still be in contention that you still might have a mulligan in the bank.
We still want to hope that you do not get any sort of damage. You don't end up in a crash. You want to be as clean as possible in this last stint. 37 laps to go, though. That's a pretty big ask out of these drivers in the field when they're this close to each other. And they were hip checking each other about a lap or so ago. Presley Sora and Corey Heim were making contact side by side, and yet somehow they did not go around. None of them went for a spin. Nobody got others involved, and there was no caution. They kept it going without a hitch, and we did get warnings from race control just letting drivers know about the yellow line rule, which is a red and white line here at Atlanta, but they mentioned you can go underneath the apron on the quad oval, but you cannot go under it anywhere else if it's for track position, so we'll keep an eye on that too.
And I'll tell you who we're watching too is that James Bickford, the 29 car on the low side. Is he about third in line on the bottom? Our two-time defending race winner. You need 3 to have a streak. He's looking to start a streak tonight, and he's been in prime position all night long. Really quiet night outside of the pit strategy call that he made earlier. Had a little bit of a contact in an incident that was not of his own doing, but James Bickford locked in, focused, and running 6th at this point in that Toyota Camry.
And James Bickford, also a driver that cannot be denied as a two-time winner in this M&R Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital. He's been able to win the first two, one of those in the last couple of laps at a super speedway in green-white checkered territory. Can we see the same happen tonight from Atlanta? Still a big question mark, and the Hog Tamers remain up front. Corey Heim leads them to the stripe, and the outside lane just as strong as always. 3 cars up there have been the strongest so far. Presley Sora not able to break away. They got to do something different here.
It's just that bottom line. I don't think we've really been able to see it form up and have a run at the lead. They can get close, but once they get just almost there, they start falling back. I don't know if that's a tire wear thing. I don't know if that's just the product of the low line and this type of racing with this type of car, or what's going on. You know, I'm probably going to eat my words by the end of this one, and the winner will come from the low line. But right now, I'm camping out in that top line for all it's worth and making all my moves up against the wall.
Well, if there's one thing about being a commentator, especially in sim racing, is that more often than not, you're probably not right, even if you guess.
100%.
And that's a tough thing. We always say that maybe something would be like this, maybe it's like this, and it always happens in the opposite way, which is it's sort of tough to think about. It's sort of weird to think about too, but I mean, nonetheless, we could see a lot of things go haywire. And we saw how aggressive they were, Darren, for a while. Right in the middle of this race, we saw 3 wide action. A lot of the drivers at the front almost crashed before an inevitable caution came out involving Presley Sora in the 98 and the 10 of DJ Cummings. So, I mean, it can quickly unravel, and you just don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, these guys are not, they're not content to ride at this point. They are not single file. We really haven't seen single file all night long. The runs will come for wherever, and these guys are taking them. And it's really incredible to see. I mean, we've been talking offline just how incredible these saves have been, how incredible a lot of this driving has been, and the talent we've seen out of these guys. It started in qualifying when the field was, within a tenth and a half of each other? So just incredible driving from all these guys across the field tonight, as we've got the top 10 within a half a second, 0.4 of a second of each other. Incredible racing. Mention,
top 14 have broken away in a big pack of their own. Everybody 15th on back have decided to back out of this. Not many of these cars are still left in packs. They're all either single file, or some of them have hit pit road. Ford Martin being one of them. You look at Mark Ravillas all the way at the bottom end of the racetrack, but this pack has severely dwindled out. So Darren, attrition playing a big role in this race later on.
It's attrition, and then we're also watching, I know that lap is, we'll say 34 seconds at this point, but Gary Sexton's losing what looks like about a second a lap. So these lap cars, even if we do stay green, will probably come into play near the end of this one. And if they keep dicing double file like they are right now, they're going to have to go 3 wide around some of these lap cars. If it is Sexton, or is it someone else who just happens to fall back? But there's a lot of variables that we can see playing out much later on in the race. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with talking about dodging laps cars with under 5 to go, but there's a lot of variables still yet to play out in this one.
That's for sure. And the last time we were here in Atlanta, we had a caution inside 2 laps to go. So anything can happen, even if that was the old and abrasive surface of Atlanta. But it's still the same track nonetheless. So you're looking at maybe a same scenario happen. And we're also going to watch fuel strategy, Darren. These guys have now gone 30 laps on their stint. They're going to cross the line for 31 as Presley Sora takes control of the outside. He leads this race back to the stripe. They probably cannot make it on 75% fuel to the end. The 20 gallons that are available on these next-gen cars, a little more than 18 on the Gen 6 version of the NASCAR Cup Series machines, but on 75% fuel, they cannot make it to the end. They have to pit at least one more time, which is a big question mark in this race too.
Right, and we're looking fairly green right now. I mean, I know that we have a broadcaster jinx, and as soon as I say that, we'll have one in the wall sideways. But again, there's a lot of variables to now play out. And you know what? We talked in the production meeting, the likelihood of us seeing a green flag pit stop, very slim, but there still is a chance. We're saying there's a chance, and with 26 to go and the fuel getting a little light, that chance might just be coming to light here within the next couple of laps.
Just like you're telling me there's a chance at this point. No, I guess
I'm telling you there's a chance. Telling you there's a chance.
The odds. Chase Cavery moves up to the top of the racetrack right in front of Presley Sora. Looks like Brandon Half got shuffled out of line quite a bit. He's going to find some space, or at least try to. They're 3 wide. That's him, Ronnie Osberg, Dylan Connolly, and the number 95. And Chase Cabry surges to the lead, the Tampa, Florida native, looking for his first win in a while in MNR, obviously in last season's edition of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series. The last win for Chase Cabry came with the Super Late Models at Richmond in the playoffs, and here comes Bickford with a challenge for the lead on the inside.
Here comes Bickford, but 2 cars back at him. Shout out Matt Stallneck. Started shotgun on the field tonight, ran into a couple incidences, and he is in contention right behind the battle for the lead. The fruit is, or the cream is rising to the top at this point, Kenneth, as all these major players are coming up through the field. And what did we say? If you can push with 30 to go, push with 30 to go. If you can push with 20 to go, push with 20 to go. You got to go at this point, and that's the key word, is Leighton Sabile takes back the lead. Heck of a battle on at the front of the field between Cabry and Sabile.
And look to the run of the front, spearheaded by the 96 of Colin Fern.
There he goes.
About 2 or 3 spots in those 2 corners, turns 3 and 4. We're 3 wide for the lead. Colin Fern in the front on the back straightaway.
Hungry dogs don't sleep. Hungry dogs don't sleep. And Colin Fern has not slept on this race. If you have slept on him, you have made a mistake. He finally has the lead that he's been searching for all night long.
And Chase Cabry got backed up there by lap car Jonathan Gokin, the number 08, the pole sitter tonight. Colin Fern's going to block the outside run. Crossover by Corey Heim on the inside.
What incredible racing we're seeing here on Monday Night Racing. Corey Heim now back to the lead as Sabile is on his bumper. Colin Fern falls back. Kenneth, we are in for a heck of a finish tonight.
Heim, Fern, Sabile, Bickford, and now Sora inside your top 5. We are gridlocked again for the front position. Heim will lead him to the stripe, and once more, Darren, Hog Tamers is at the top of the track. They might still be unstoppable, but is there a way to break them apart and lose their momentum?
Absolutely. We saw it with the Coley cars in the Xfinity race on Saturday night. They were running 1, 2, 3 and looked unstoppable. These Hog Tamers cars, and they still got beat, right? So we're looking at the Hog Tamers cars here tonight. They've been dominating all night long, running 1, 2 through the last half of this race. But there's too many hungry guys in this field, led by Colin Fern, that are going to try anything they can to take the checkers tonight.
That's a fantastic point. Now, if these 2 are in this race by the end of it, whether it be Sabile or Heim, which of them is going to be the aggressor to move for the win if it's coming down to those 2? Because you've been running as teammates all night long. But if there's one thing about being teammates on a super speedway, is that you throw all of those ideas away when it gets to that white flag.
Well, white flag, and really at this point, coming to the checkers, I wouldn't make my move if I was Sabile until I see the checkers in the wind, possibly coming out of 4. Back up a little bit, going in, out of 2, get the run down the backstretch, maybe try to make a move into 3 or 4. But a team win's a team win. I know Monday Night Racing wins are rare and hard to get, but you just got to play it by ear when it gets to that point, right? Like, the aggressor is going to be who's ever in second, and the blocker is going to be the guy in the lead. And who ends up in the wall? Who ends up taking the checkers? Only one guy can take the checkers, but everybody can end up in the wall. So we'll have to see how that plays out here in 18 laps.
Now we are getting into crunch time here at Atlanta as the lead still shuffles between Corey Heim and Colin Fern. We have not seen an official convincing leader quite yet. That inside has looked the strongest it has all night long. We have not seen it as strong like this. And remember, these guys are still on the verge, possibly, of green flag pit stops. So how dramatic will it get? They crossed the line, a lot of them lap 41. Colin Fern, the only driver on a different strategy, better by 6 laps. 35 laps ago was when he pitted, so he's got a 6-lap advantage. But in a super speedway where you need a lot of help, it probably won't be any big of a difference for Fern as he stays on the bottom, and Corey Heim has a breakout in front, but for at least 5 or so seconds.
Little bobble out of Fern right there, and he's got all the help he can handle at this point, and that bottom line is just not shaping up like we wanted to. We've been talking that the dominant line all night long is up top as the Hog Tamers cars pull a car length. And again, we'll see Colin Fern be able to maybe match that coming down the backstretch. But when we get back to the line, it's likely going to be the Hog Tamers cars, as that bottom line just does not stick like those guys need it to.
And the question is, does anybody force it 3 wide? Are you willing to risk that for these guys somewhat back in this first pack? You look at Matt Stallnick in the 41. He's been hanging around the top 10. You look at Chase Cabry, who got shuffled out of line. Dylan Connolly, who's been also hanging there, but hasn't really done much for the front. What risks do these guys take at this stage?
I mean, it's how much you want to win it, right, Kenneth? Like, if you just are happy with your 5th place, then don't risk really anything. Just ride. But I think all these boys are racers. We're all racers, and we're gonna risk just a little bit. Maybe a wrinkled digital fender or two to get that win. You know, if you put that fender right, just right into somebody's quarter panel, it might just help you get that checkered flag tonight. So again, it depends on who your friends are out there, where you're running, what you really want to accomplish tonight. If you're a James Bickford and looking for the sweep, maybe you try a little bit harder, or maybe you're content to ride with 2 wins and just maintain yourself in the points. So there's a lot of varying strategies, there's a lot of differing desires out there as we go on board with James Bickford, trying to work that bottom lane right behind Colin Fern. Nice little run they finally get. Does the 96, but again, the 11 up top is going to have the momentum coming onto the backstretch, and especially with his teammate behind him, Leighton Sabile, they are going to maintain the lead once again. Half up there too, contributing to that outside line.
And there goes the top side, so they are going to break out ahead quite a bit, and that's a good run out of 4 for Brandon Half to the back bumper of Leighton Sabile, so they'll pick up Corey Heim. That's really good news for them, so they're going to be able to chill out for a little bit and hold off Colin Fern in that 96 for a little while until he inevitably is going to come back at this stage of the race. So we are going into 11 laps to go. We're probably going to be looking at maybe some pit stops at this stage of the race, but so far nobody has even looked down there at all. Nobody is looking for pit road, which I'm very surprised about. Not sure if they can make it all the way to the end. And that sun is starting to set. Track tap has decreased gradually, now down to 95 degrees.
Love it. And again, we've been keeping track of those lap cars, or at least those guys falling back of the pack. Sexton and Jewel about 20 seconds back right now. Not sure at this point if they're going to play a factor in this one with only 11 to go. But it's something to watch for as we go 3 wide into 3. Half in the middle of Sabile trying to break up that Hog Tamer duo up top. Is he able to slide up? He's not clear. He's not clear. And the Hog Tamers are maintaining that bumper-to-bumper contact on the outside line. Failed move by Half in the 9. Now he's stuck in the middle.
He's stuck in the middle, but he's got help. That 41 of Matt Stallnick is there. He's going to float up high to Chase Cabry, and that's really close. Fern is going to have to stuff it to the outside, and a crossover by Chase Cabry. Big move, and here comes Stallnick.
Give these spotters a raise. These guys are dicing it up out there, and those moves are precision. Just an inch or 2 of error, and we are going to have a 15-car pileup. We have not seen it yet. Bravo to the spotters, bravo to the drivers as we go under 9 to go here in Atlanta as Corey Heim maintains the lead with his teammate behind him.
Oh, and Half gets into the wall. He gets into Matt Alverson, who goes up the track in front of Dakota Curtis, who woes it down enough to get it out of harm's way, and we're going to stay green. And I was about to say that the question I posed earlier about those guys in the back half of the first pack, when they were going to make their moves 3 wide, it looks like that was the answer about a lap or so ago, but it has broken up the first pack. Matt Alverson has fallen back to 13th and make that at least 12 or so cars in this first pack, make it 11 actually.
Boy, this is the move we're trying to see out of Colin Fern. If he could just slide up and break up that Hog Tamer duo, he'd be in the money position, finally being able to break them up. He's got help, though, out of the 99 of Miranda. I just don't know if that bottom line is going to be. He's got to make a quick move as we're coming up on a lap car. Maybe he can use it as a pick nut. Lap car gets out of the way. But again, that bottom lane just cannot hold the momentum coming out of the corner as Fern gets bound up once again.
And Stallnick hits the outside wall, so he backs out of line. 3 wide. Dylan Connolly in the 95 moves to the inside. Presley Sora, the back end of this first pack, it is severely thinned out, but so are the laps. It looks like they are going to stick it out to the very end. Colin Fern is going to stay on the bottom of Corey Heim, and the same situation that Heim ended up in last time we were here at Atlanta. He would be on the outside in 3 and 4, but what would he do? He would pinch the car on the bottom and forfeit their ability to make a big run.
Boy, you know, Fern is really making that bottom lane work better than we've seen anybody all night long. He's got a great pusher in Cabry behind him. I don't know if they have the advantage yet, but they're making it look good. As now we're 3 wide for second place into 3 and 4, and the Hog Tamers are broken up. Seville falling back. Seville falling back and down in the wall with Presley Sora. Caution will be out.
Lane Seville and Sora Tango. Caution with 5 laps to go. And I was gonna toss off your point there, Darren. You made a really good point. The fact that Hog Tamers got absolutely disbanded there, and it was because of Mario Miranda moved the car to the middle lane, and then Corey Heim went down to block the run, and all of a sudden it was 3 wide from there on out. Look at the move Miranda makes. That is a smart move on the back straightaway to break them up in the closing laps, but unfortunately it ends up in a caution.
And I don't even know, like, that was just Seville getting high. It almost looked like he had an issue. I don't know if Miranda's move really had that much effect on what happened to Seville there. And then it was just on from there, back in the pack without his teammate for the first time really all night long. And around goes Leighton Seville out of this one with 5 to go. Let's ride on board Matt Stolnick as he tries to navigate through this one. Just a little, nope, he gets clean and through after the night he's had. Stolnick needed a break, and he got it right there.
And he got very close there to getting into that incident. And the 98 of Sora, unfortunately, the victim. That's the second crash that he's been involved in tonight. First one in turn 4. His first one was right on the back straightaway entering turn 3, and that was with the 10 car of DJ Cummings. So a caution out here inside. 5 laps to go. Now, we're not sure whether we're going to have an organic green-white checkered restart or whether this is going to extend this race into overtime. Remember, it comes down to either the 130 laps that we have scheduled or 2 hours on the timing sheet. It looks like we still have around 38.5 minutes left, so we should be okay. But let's bring in the driver of the 41, Matt Stolnick. And Matt, you barely got by through that incident, but talk us through this race. You started all the way at the back. From 34th place, he moved up, and now you're in this front pack with a chance to win. What has it been like all night long?
It's been crazy. It's take. It's so hard to pass. The windows are so small. You have to take everything if it's there, and luckily I've been able to kind of get away with a few of those and find myself here in the lead pack with a shot to win this thing. It would be a pretty huge win with this being a short season. So. This has just been crazy, man. It's a wild this reconfiguration, but we're having a lot of fun.
And it's been a lot of fun. I think it's been really scary for us in the broadcast, but just trying to watch it all. But for you, I mean, 2 times in a row that we've seen you. I mean, Charlotte a couple of weeks ago, and you look at tonight from Atlanta, the way you've been able to move up through the field despite some early adversity. What's it been like relentless-wise for you to keep that mentality, to move forward and understand that the race is never over until it's over?
It fits who I am as a driver. Like, I'm not the best qualifier. That's kind of always been my MO. But, you know, I feel like just like the way that I like to approach races with a lot of aggression, always, you know, aiming to move forward, it fits my style. So this didn't bother me at all. And if anything, I think it kind of helped keep me out of the fray early in the race when it really just didn't matter. So I think it worked out. And, you know, here we are with a shot for this thing. And probably going to need 1 or 2 more breaks to go our way. But if we can get it, we'll put this thing in victory lane.
Hey, 2 laps to go. You're riding inside the top 10. What are you going to do to try to win this thing?
Whatever it takes. I'll shoot the middle. Wherever there's a hole, I'm taking it.
Hey, that's the proper response. 2 super speedway wins in your M&R career. I'm sure that you could probably get it done here tonight. Best of luck on this restart with 2 to go.
Thanks, guys.
So that's Matt Stolnick, driver of the 41, the Typico Sportsbook Ford Mustang, who actually had a lot of fun with the Typico guys, and they sponsored one of the trucks in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at Mid-Ohio, so that was really cool to see. Matt Stolnick inside the top 10 on the outside, and that was Zane Smith. So thank you, Ryan Bauer. I couldn't exactly pinpoint which driver it was. I knew it was a driver of a Ford F-150. I knew it was Front Row Motorsports, but I didn't know it was Zane Smith. So Zane Smith with the Typico Sportsbook, and it looks like the 41 of Stolnick looking to take his Typico Sportsbook Ford Mustang to victory lane, but he's got some cars to get around before it's all said and done. 2 laps to go, restart. Corey Heim, the champion from last season, Mario Miranda, the rookie. Green flag.
Yeah, speaking of that Mid-Ohio race, Kenneth, the Mid-Ohio truck race winner leads him to the green, and that's Corey Heim, birthday boy this week. It's his 21st birthday week, so a second win on the week for him would be great, but no one is going to gift wrap this and hand it to him. They are going to make him work for this. As Miranda on the low side, finally a run on the low side from Miranda, as he's got a pusher and Cabry behind him. There's no help right now from behind for the first time all night for Corey Heim.
And they are
White
still
flag.
even for the lead. White flag in the air in this Mach10 Digital 200. Look who just slotted into the third line on the inside. That's the 41 of Mach10, still even at a turn 2.
Looks like the 11 is going to have the run off the corner as they're formed up real nice behind him, but Half wants it just as bad as Heim does. Half on the back bumper of Heim as they're into 3. Looking outside goes Half in the 9.
And they're starting to beat and bang for second on back. Car on the wall, but Corey Heim all by himself takes the Mach10 Digital 200 from Atlanta.
Great win for the birthday boy as they watch him pilot up down in 1. The 11 gets the win. His second win on the week, one on the truck race, the Craftsman Truck Series race at Mid-Ohio. And Corey Heim scoring probably an equally as valuable win here in Monday Night Racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway as he bumps fenders right there with his teammate Leighton Sabile. Big help from Sabile all night long to keep Heim out front. The stats at the end of this one are going to show that Corey Heim led the vast majority of laps at the end of this one. However, it was not without a fight from the entire field. Great race all night long.
A fantastic one here from Atlanta as Corey Heim, even with the damage on his Toyota Camry, it does not matter. He will burn it down and bring you the winning moment here. The Monday Night Racing Summer Series presented by Mach10 Digital. It's his first win since mid-February when he got his championship in Season 6 of the MNR Pro Series. And he gets to burn it down. Leighton Sabile, his teammate, right alongside him for the celebrations. When we come back, we have post-race coverage. We'll take you through the unofficial results and talk to your top 3 after the Mach10 from Atlanta.
Mach 10. Let's give Mach 10.
You're cleared for takeoff. Request permission to engage with intent conducting smash. Over.
FrontStretch.com, providing up-to-date news, analysis, and commentary on all the latest in the world of motorsports. Check out Front Stretch YouTube page for post-race content after the checkered flag waves for most NASCAR events, giving you up-close interviews with your favorite drivers and the stories that matter each weekend. For the best seat of the track and the best view on the web, visit FrontStretch.com.
A wild finish here from Atlanta Motor Speedway as we close off the Mach10 Digital 200, where Corey Heim, after winning Mid-Ohio in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series earlier last weekend, picks up a win of his own in M&R. Here in the Summer Series, he wins by a couple of car lengths over Mario Miranda. A great run for the rookie driver in the 89 who had a shot at the win late in the going. Chase Cabrey in the 39 picks up off of a second-place finish at Charlotte 2 weeks ago with a third-place finish of his own in the Super Speedway Series from Atlanta. Matt Stallneck, the biggest mover by far overall in this race, started dead last, 34th, and goes plus 30, ends up as a driver finishing 4th in tonight's event. James Bickford unfortunately denied an opportunity at 3 in a row in this Summer Series, but nonetheless a top 5 should keep him in the points lead. Joshua Slade in the 01 rebounds after some trouble earlier on tonight, comes home in P6. Matt Alberson in the 6 car, great run for him as well, comes home in 7th. Colin Fern tried to be aggressive late in this race, and unfortunately it did not work out. He ends up in 8th. Brandon Brown, great race for him after starting 32nd. He finishes in 9th, and the hot dog machine, Max Kennan, Darren Denman, rounds out the top 10.
Gotta love that hot dog machine. Gotta love the run that George Jewell had too in the 70. Didn't talk about him all night long, but came home a clean 11th. Dylan Connolly in the 95 was 12th. Presley Sora had a couple big incidences throughout the race, and one of them late, relegating him to a 13th place finish. Brandon Houff got shuffled there at the end. In the 9, back to 14th. 31, Matt Kent, 15th. Ronnie Osmer came home 16th in the 55, and Gary Sexton, after his really kind of up and down night that just started down and really never got much better, came home 17th. Leighton Sabile, after his late spin into the wall after running second all night long, is 18th. Dale Tanhard in the 81, 19th, and rounding out the 20, rounding out the top 20 in 20th, the number 4, Brent Baldeck.
Joe Zolo in the number 60 car is 21st, and he ends this race as the last car on the lead lap. The first car 1 lap down is Michael Fisher, who had a great qualifying time, ran up front for a bulk of the race, and unfortunately had trouble late. Jonathan Goat, the pole sitter, also had a sour end to the race, comes home in 23rd. Dakota Curtis is 24th. 25th will go to Ford Martin in the 07, and then 26 goes to Mark Rabillas. Steve O'Font in the 54 comes home in 27th. 28th will go to the 10 car of DJ Cummings. 29th to Cole Cabrey in the 51, who got caught up in a crash midway through the race. And Nick Olson, also with trouble, a couple of cautions he was involved in, ends up as the last driver in the top 30. Monin Rahman in the 15 ends up 31st. Will Davis 32nd. 33rd for Joseph Gregory, and Connor Berry with a crash early in this race was the first DNF of the night. He ends up as 34th on the running order. Let's bring in the driver who gets to victory lane, and it's a big happy birthday week for Corey Heim. Corey, you picked up a win at Mid-Ohio in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and you come out to M&R, and you dominate at a super speedway. You win here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Just give us your thoughts and emotions right now coming back to win this race.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun for sure. Working with Leighton for most of the race, he did a really good job at just keeping us up front. I thought starting 16th, I would kind of struggle to see the front just with the lack of, we had unlimited tires and fuel. So we were able to just kind of come in every single cycle. There wasn't a lot of strategy to it, the way the cautions fell. So we knew we had to get to the front as soon as possible and just maintain that. So we did. And he got, booked 3 wide with 4 or 5 to go. So had to hang on to the outside and side draft as hard as I could to keep the lead, and it worked out for me.
And talk about the way that you were able to take the approach of this race after Lane Sabile got shuffled out of line, because you two had been almost unstoppable all race long. What was that like as soon as he got out of the picture, and what you had to do to stay up front?
For sure. I think if it went green, it would have been a lot tougher, just with everyone being so spaced out. But I knew if I picked the outside on that last restart and, just side drafted really hard and hoped that I had at least a little help, which I did, it'll work out. And, with the way these cars are at speedways, the side draft is just brutal. So if you're in control of that, it's a lot easier to manage a race. But if you're on the inside, you just have to hope that you get a good enough run to clear them. And luckily, the people on my inside never did. So just a huge thanks to EPI, Hog Tamers, and Leighton Sabile, and Mon and Ramen for the fuel mileage stuff today, and Toyota Racing. It's been a good week for us, and hopefully we can get many more.
Well, top 10 at Charlotte Motor Speedway a couple of weeks ago with the Gen 4 car. You get to rip that car once again, this time around Chicagoland Speedway next Monday night. So what's that race going to look like for you, and how are you going to try to go 2 in a row and try to be James Bickford in a way and try to repeat?
That'll be fun. I think Chicago is one of my favorite tracks in iRacing. I haven't actually done it. Well, I guess I did it a little while ago in the last season, but I haven't run like a really high horsepower car there in a while, and that was one of my favorite things to do, like growing up, like with the old Cup cars and stuff. So that'll definitely be a lot of fun. Hopefully we move around and can run the top like you used to be able to, and make it a fun race. But yeah, just really huge props to everyone who makes the world go around in Monday Night Racing. I feel like they've done a really good job with this year. Just everyone was kind of bummed out when we found out that we wouldn't have, about 8 months until the next season, and they did a good job with kind of doing a lighthearted summer series, and I feel like it's been putting on a really good show as well. So huge thanks to those guys as well.
It was a hell of a show put on track by you, Corey. We certainly appreciate the time. A big congratulations on winning the Mach10 Digital 200 tonight from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And happy 21st birthday. We'd like to say that. I know it was a couple days ago, but we hope you enjoyed your birthday. And congratulations on the Mid-Ohio win. We'll see you at Chicagoland next Monday.
All right. Thanks, guys.
So that is Corey Heim, driver of the 11. The previous M&R Pro Series champion gets to victory lane for the first time since that Homestead Miami Speedway race in mid-February. We'll talk to the rookie driver in second place, Mario Miranda. Darren Denman, you're caught up with him.
Mario, my man, you were so close there at the end. Heck of a race all night long. I was watching you, and the Colin Ferns of the world are just outwardly aggressive, but you were, like, I feel very subtly aggressive all night long and put yourself in the position that you needed to be in there at the end. What more did you need to just get those extra 700ths of a second and get that win?
I think just more confidence in the people behind me. I'm the rookie. I don't know a lot of people. So, coming off the backstretch, I knew Heim would side draft me and probably move up the track to get away from my side draft. And I was afraid to follow him back up the track because I thought, Cabry was giving me great pushes, but I thought if I moved up the track, he would just, put me in the middle. It's the last lap. I wouldn't blame him. So, if I had a teammate behind me, it'd probably be different. But I just, trying to get to know everybody, try to earn respect in this league. So, maybe if that situation happened, 4 races down the line, then I probably had a better chance.
I mean, what is like that being a rookie, though, too, in this league? And you're racing Saturday's truck winner on the outside. And I mean, man, you could have slid up into him and taken a fender off his car and got the checkered flag, but you didn't. You're racing with respect. You're looking for respect. Just speak on that experience, on what you're really, gunning for here. Obviously, you're gaining respect on the track with how you race and how you race guys clean, but you're also racing aggressively, even though I said it was subtly aggressive, and you're still getting great finishes out of it.
Yeah, that moment on the backstretch was just I just had that realization that I think I'd rather take second place than something worse than that in case I did lose the help. But one of the biggest things in like my iRacing journey and my real life racing as well is just learn to when to be aggressive and not always be aggressive. And that's the biggest complaint people have had of me in the past, and I've done my best to try to fix it to points where I can be patient, but I know when to be aggressive, and I'm not trying to make anyone mad, just out there trying to win a race.
All right, Miranda, it sounds like you got a great head on your shoulders, kid. What is next on the docket for you? Will we see you in Chicago next week? Or you talked about your real life racing. What do you got going on there?
Yeah, this weekend I'm doing legend car racing here in Oklahoma, asphalt road course racing. It's not dirt racing as you would typically expect of an Oklahoma driver, but that's all fun in itself. And then you'll see me next week again repping the OU on the car.
Love it. Great paint scheme. Great run tonight. Mario Miranda finishes P2. Mario, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next week at Chicagoland.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
So that is Mario Miranda in the 89 car who comes home in second. We go from one beautiful paint scheme car to another, and that is the 39 at Chase Cabry who comes home in third. Chase, first of all, welcome. Congratulations on the podium finish, and give us that perspective of those last couple of laps. You're pushing Miranda on the inside, trying to get to Corey Heim. What was that like?
Yeah, it was super fun. I had a blast. The racing I thought was pretty excellent. It's so tough as the inside lane to get clear of the outside lane. All the leader has to do, I mean, you could have 7 miles an hour and advantage, and all the leader has to do is come down on the right rear and, kind of side draft you, and then you stall out. So it was really fun being in the bottom groove trying to make those runs, because the top groove kept getting stacked up, especially if you're fifth, sixth car on back. So I had control of the race at one point. I got to lead, I'd say 20 to go, and then I got caught behind a lap car and had to go all the way back to 11th and try to climb back through. So I had a blast. I thought everything was super fun, and I hope it was pretty enjoyable to watch, because it was pretty fun from my perspective.
It certainly was a lot of fun to watch. And you were one of those guys who was really aggressive at the front of the field, but it all seemed to work out. Switching lanes, trying to see where the draft was going, and pinpointing where you could take those runs. How patient did you have to be to find and choose the right times to go, to stay up front, or to get back up if you drop back a little?
Yeah, I felt like the bottom groove, there was times when I would go down there almost by myself, one or two cars, and you'd fall all the way to 15th, and then, the top groove would get kind of stacked, and then you'd be able to make some headway, and you just had to be patient running the bottom to get the cars and energy and momentum in your favor, and then you could draw all the way up into, that, say, top 5 area, and then you'd find yourself a hole, get up to the top, ride for a few laps, wait for more cars to go down there and go back down. So it was a lot of strategy. It was kind of one of those races I thought we were going to ride around and kind of go to the back and ride, but it was it felt safe up front. I felt like if it was going to get super sketchy, I was going to dip, but early in the race, but I decided to just keep riding it out up top, up in the front half of the field. And I thought it was super fun and super tough, more of a mental game than it was anything.
All right, so now you end up moving forward. It's been great podium finishes from Charlotte, the Gen 4s, to now tonight's Super Speedway race with the Next Gens at Atlanta. Now we go back to Gen 4 action next Monday at Chicagoland Speedway. So what are your thoughts about the venue over in Joliet, Illinois, and what you're going to try to do to get your first M&R Summer Series win this year?
Yeah, the C-Fix Series was just at Chicagoland, and it moved all around. The first couple laps were like wide open. Obviously, you won't be wide open in Gym 4. At least I don't think so. And then you'd get to the top, and then you'd have to get back to the bottom. So I think with the way you can move around the Gym 4 car, I think you're going to see a lot of moving. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited for it. I like the Gym 4 way more than the super speedways. I just prefer that. So I'm pretty excited for next week, and we'll see how it goes.
It's going to be a lot of fun in 1 week time when you take on Chicagoland. But Chase, on behalf of our entire broadcast team, congratulations on the podium finish from Atlanta, and we hope to see you next Monday at Chicagoland.
Thanks.
So that's Chase Cabry, driver of the 39, comes home in third place here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And I'd say, Darren, a big redemption from Daytona. We saw a lot of crashes, a lot of things that wanted to be improved on in the league. Also noted that as well, some little things that they tried to change for this second Super Speedway race, and honestly, definitely worked out. We saw a lot more clean racing through the front of the field. We saw a lot of aggression, but at the same time, a lot of patience, and then a great finish, clean one all the way to the end with 2 laps to go. And Corey Heim holding on for his first win since mid-February.
Absolutely. Another great race, Kenneth. Like we talked about the one in Charlotte and the different storylines throughout that race and how fantastic that the entire race was. Another fantastic race here from Atlanta this evening. Maybe there wasn't as many storylines as we saw in Charlotte. It was a pretty clean-cut race from the fact that once those Hog Tamers cars got the lead, they were able to hold it throughout the latter, we'll say 2/3 of the race. But there were guys that still made it exciting. The Colin Ferns of the world just do not give up. Presley Soar in the wall a couple times, still had a really solid finish. I think he came home 13th. So again, these guys, they battle and they don't just lay down. Corey Heim's a NASCAR National Touring Series winner this week, and they weren't just going to give him that win. They made him work for that, and the show that we got out of those guys doing work was incredible. Another Monday Night Racing classic, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
There's nothing like Corey Heim going out and winning a real-life NASCAR Crash and Truck Series race in Mid-Ohio and then coming here and just absolutely dominating the field at a super speedway.
Absolutely.
That was insane. And a 21-year-old driver, too. He's my age, and I don't even have 0.5% in skill.
And what's Mario Miranda? 18, I think. But again, how cool is this series? How cool is iRacing that you've got a Craftsman Truck Series winner on Saturday racing against a high school kid that races legend cars in Oklahoma on Monday night virtually, and then just the different personalities throughout the field. It's exciting to be a part of. It's exciting racing, and it's an exciting social event on top of the sport that is involved in it, bringing all these people together from different walks of life and competing on really an international stage on Monday nights.
Well, the storylines continue. We go back to Gen 4 racing, so we'll see a little more of those rear ends kicking out, those rear tires spinning a little more. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We get to that really tough surface in Joliet, Illinois. That'll be next Monday night, July 17th, so be sure to tune in. Same time, same place. That'll be around 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find it right here on the main Podium Esports Twitch channel, where we're going to have a lot of fun. And when we return for the Super Speedway Series, that'll be the week after at Talladega in Alabama. So that'll do it for our broadcast of the Mach10 Digital 200 from Atlanta Motor Speedway. For Ford Martin and everyone at Monday Night Racing, Paul Sutton and Michael Hall in Race Control, for Gary Sexton and John Fiore at Podium Esports, and for our broadcast crew tonight, for our camera builder Dougie Beard, our overlay builder Michael Hall, for Cameron Aubernon on Podium Esports social media, and for our producer Ryan Bauer, my colleague in the booth Darren Denman, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying thank you so much for watching our coverage from Hampton, Georgia. We'll turn it over to the frontstretch.com post-race show with Tanner Marler and Brandon Houff.
Thank you, Kenneth. We are back with another show. This time, I'm Brandon Houff, and we have a special guest, Tanner Marler, filling in for Mike, who couldn't make it tonight. So I was the lone front stretch representative in the race. But how you doing tonight, Tanner?
I'm all right, Brandon. How are you? First of all, we got to address the elephant in the room. That was a great effort on your part out there tonight.
I tried. I have a lot to say about the race, but I don't know. Every single one of these races, I feel like at the end of it, I'm always there, but something just prevents me from getting to the top three, getting to that win. Tonight, I felt like was my best shot to do it. And I thought I had it there in turn 3. And then I got left out. And then I got spun. And then I got pushed across the line. And here I am 14th. But I'll tell you what, that was a really fun race to be a part of. I will say for the most part up front, it was pretty clean. We were aggressive, but I thought it was clean. I don't know what it was like from a viewer's perspective, but from my perspective, it was really good.
I'd have to completely agree. And again, as one of the first-time viewers here tonight, I will have to say up front, it looked borderline, almost too aggressive. Like it was riding that line between being too aggressive, but still maintaining the cleanliness up front. And there was a moment there with about 10 to go that I want to kind of dive into with you. You had Heim up front, and you were trying to split him and his teammate, and it looked like you took the middle lane. Can you explain kind of your thought process there?
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody was paying attention earlier in the race. I got shuffled back in that one of the wrecks. I think it was between me and Nick Olson. It didn't cause a caution. I got shuffled back to 26, 27. And then I pit. Yeah, here you go. I think this is the one with 10 to go, I think. But no, yeah. But earlier in the race, I was back there, and on a restart, I said, screw it, I'm just going to use the middle, see if it works. And me and Nick went from about 25th, 24th to, I think we got up to as high as 3rd. And all I did was use the middle and split everybody. So I'm like, all right, with a little bit of help, this can work. And so with 10 to go here, I saw Matt, I saw him get a huge run. So I was determined, honestly, to split up the 25 and the 11. So I did my best to try to get with Matt. Hopefully he would get enough of a run to push me. That way I can either get, kind of side draft the 11, kind of push him back or pull him back. And then maybe, race Colin there on the inside for the win. Obviously we had a caution, so it was all, for nothing. But that was my thought process. It didn't work, but,
You kind of answered my next question there in that you and your teammate at one point, Nick, got into a pretty bad incident yourselves and were able to drive back through the field, and you answered it there. You guys just rode the middle the whole way up.
Yeah, I was told before the race the middle is the worst place to be on this track, and I kind of just ignored that. I was just like, you know what? Let me try it. I got help. Let me just see how it goes. We had fresh tires. I had a little bit of a damage. I think I had like 20 seconds of damage. Got that repaired. So I said, all right, I can either do one of two things. I can either ride back here and risk myself getting in a wreck, or I could do the same, except be at the front. And my goal all night was to be at the front. I didn't qualify as good as I wanted to. I started, I think, 13th or something. But my goal was to run up front. And I think for the most part I did. It's just, that one wreck there put me in the back, and then it only took like 9 laps. I don't even know. But it was fun. I'll tell you that. Going up the middle there and having all those guys, just kind of the seas parting and all that, that was really fun. And I'm glad it worked, because I was testing it for later in the race to see if it would work. And, it almost did. But, I'm sad I finished 14th because I ran a lot better than that. But, it is what it is.
There were a lot of other great runs tonight, particularly, though, by our winner, Corey Heim. He goes out and wins Mid-Ohio earlier this week. What's it like to be sharing the track with someone that's competing on the weekends?
Yeah, I've been around Corey for pretty much the 3 races, like pretty much all race, for the 3 races we've had between the 2 super speedways and the 1 Gen 4. He's a good racer, man. I know in real life he's really good. On the sim, he's just as good, though. I've had no problems with him. We've raced clean. I know there at the end, I was trying to help him by the inside line. I was honestly going to try to hang him out and try to make my own move. But no, Corey's a good racer. I have a lot of respect for him. Obviously, in real life, he's having a lot of success, and I'm happy for him there. And he's only going to get better. He's young. He's quick. He's got a lot of potential. But he's been really good here in MNR in the summer season so far. I know he's got a few wins to his credit now. Not only that, but in the regular season, in the fall and winter season. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year with him. I know there are a lot of really, really good guys in this league. This is my first rodeo with these guys. I know I've been watching this since the start. Been covering it for the last few seasons. Happy to finally be a part of it. But he's a fun guy to race with. Clean. I had no problems with him tonight. Haven't in the first 3. Let's hope it stays that way. I don't want to jinx anything, but no, he's fun out there.
Absolutely. And you guys, obviously, next week going to Chicago's Land Speedway. Talk about what you're looking for out of this Gen 4 car.
Well, I unfortunately won't be a part of it. I'm going to have to miss the race. But my experience in the Gen 4, I've raced a ton of it on the sim since it came out like 6 months ago now, or 5 months ago. A mile and a half is one of the most fun cars you'll ever drive. Previously, I said the Xfinity car was, but the Gen 4 is easily taken over. It's the only thing I race on iRacing, honestly, when I'm not racing MNR. I will race nothing but the Gen 4. We just had a whole week at Old Atlanta, and I raced probably like 10 races during the week. It's so fun. You have to save tires. You have to wheel that thing around. I mean, the thing is so out of the track like the old Gen 4 used to be. It's got the speed. You can utilize multiple lines, top, bottom, middle. And especially at Chicago, it's going to be a really fun race because, the top of that track, you can rim ride there and it'll work on iRacing, but you can also use the bottom and it'll work. And then you can lay it on somebody's door there in the middle line and you can make that work too. So it's going to be a really fun race for those guys. Unfortunately, like I said, I won't be a part of it. I wish I was, but, I got other things going on. But yeah, it's going to be a really fun race. I think that'll be the best race of the season out of the 4 in the Gen 4, if you want my opinion.
I know a lot of people looking forward to it. Coming up here, we've got Matt Stallneck here. Had a great race tonight. We spoke to him a little bit before the finish about his plans going forward. Going to look forward to getting to talk to him about how those plans kind of played out. Matt, how are you?
Hey guys, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Now, you mentioned there in the interview, late race, you were going to try to be aggressive. You're going to try to push that fit your style much better. Obviously, didn't get to bring home the win, but still had a very solid race overall. Talk about how the strategy kind of played out during those last 10 laps.
Yeah, I mean, from my vantage point, the biggest thing was I felt like you really needed to be at the top. I felt like that's really where all the momentum was, and then it was really just about picking your spots and finding kind of that right moment where you could take a run and then bring it to the middle or to the bottom. Brandon and I went to the middle at one point. I was like so thankful because I really I felt like I didn't time it right when I made that move. It was probably like with like 4 or 5 to go, and then Brandon came behind me and we ended up actually making some decent progress up there and kind of had the middle going. But it was just about filling gaps and trying to catch people. From where I was running, kind of in that like third, fourth guy in line, the biggest thing was you wanted to catch somebody off guard going through the dog leg, and either you could really make a pass to the middle or you could pass to the outside too. But you had to be in the top lane. I felt like if you weren't the lead car on the bottom, there was really no point being on the bottom. So, and then on that restart, honestly, it was just filling gaps. Wherever I saw clean air, I put my car there. It was a little bit more art than science on those last 2 laps there, but luckily was able to kind of stay out of the fray and get a top 5 for first top 5 for the Tipico and front row team here, Front Row Motorsports. It's been an up and down summer season. I felt like the first 2 races we didn't get the results that we deserved, especially last week at Atlanta. So to come back and get a really good run tonight was vindicating in a lot of ways.
I think they mentioned it on the broadcast, but this was the first time that MNR had run the repave during the summer series. So what was that adjustment kind of like for you guys?
It from the league perspective, I thought it went significantly better than I frankly was anticipating. I've done a lot of races on the new surface on iRacing and in official races, and it's probably pound for pound the messiest combination that there is on the game right now. Not necessarily the next gen, but any of the big 3 stock cars on New Atlanta right now is just it's so tight. The transitions into and out of the corners can be really wonky on like old tires, and it just there's a lot of chaos. At the end of the day, with between net code and a lot of other factors that don't really exist in real life, there's just a lot of things that make the Atlanta track really sketchy. But on the other side, it's a really skillful version of restrictor plate or super speedway racing, I should say. Because you do have to fight handling, you do have to fight kind of some balance issues. The car doesn't just handle perfectly all the way around the racetrack, and that makes it fun. And I just didn't quite know what to expect. After the first race on the super speedway side of the schedule at Daytona, it was just really messy, and guys were driving way over their heads. And I don't know if it was the reduction of the fast repairs or maybe guys fighting balance issues, if that made guys kind of not as aggressive. But I felt like this was a really, really well contested race by everybody in the field. And aside from some wrecks which are just inevitable when you have a field this big in sim racing, I thought that was about as good as the race was going to go. From kind of like a macro way of looking at it for the league.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, talk about, I know we talked about it a little bit off camera. That move with, like you said, 5 to go. Were your tires kind of hurting there? Because I know mine were. I know we were kind of pushing it. We had a long run there. I think that might have been our longest run of the race. How much? Yeah. How much were you fighting it there? Because I know for me, even on the top, it was pretty difficult to hold it there. I was having to lift a little bit, and I was about 3/4 throttle there on the top side. And I just saw them on the bottom. They were all just pushing up. But talk about the struggle there in the middle with the cars on the outside. I mean, I know it was pretty difficult out there. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I mean, in terms of guys fighting balance issues, kind of middle, late in the run. And to your point, yes, that was the longest green flag run that we had of the night. And not only that, guys were abusing their tires. I mean, like nobody was giving an inch at that point. Like everyone's trying to find a hole, especially the guys that were running on the low lane. I noticed it especially after I ran the low lane for a few laps and I came back to the top. I mean, I was getting really tight on exit. There was a few where I almost knocked the wall down and had to breathe it on exit. So what I was doing, I was actually full throttle through parts of the corner, but I was breathing it just to kind of make sure the car was continuing to set through the corner and so that I wasn't like losing the nose. I was having to do that more and more each lap for the last 15 laps, I would say, of the race. And I had actually felt like I had maybe pushed my tires too far. And then later in that run, it actually felt like everybody was kind of starting to having to breathe it. And it was good in terms of creating holes because every time someone would kind of not set the corner up just the right way, it would open up an opportunity for the guy behind to make a run and either deep to the outside, deep to the inside, and create something. And that was exactly what happened. I think it was Mario that was right ahead of me.
Yeah.
And he just kind of barely cracked the throttle on exit, and I had set the corner up just right. And I'm like, I may as well try this at that point. And
you almost made it work, I tell you.
Yeah, I almost made it work. It just the thing with this package is that in order for a third lane to form, you really need a lot more space, and that's just not going to be there at Atlanta. But it does make it really fun if you kind of enjoy the nuances of super speedway racing. Like the most fun I had tonight was like trying to find ways to get to the outside of people in the dogleg or to the inside and then making it stick. And I was able to probably make 5 or 6 passes work and picking my way, like continuing to go through the outside lane. That was super fun. And you could do that at Daytona too. And it's a blast when you can do it there. But I don't know. I like the fact that it drives a little bit like, pre-repaved July Daytona. For those that remember those days, I guess I'm old enough to remember it now. Which is kind of sad, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think anytime you get balanced issues in super speedway racing, it makes for a better show and puts it more in the hands of the drivers.
Yeah. Talk about next week now. We got Gen 4 at Chicago. Our first race went pretty smooth, I would say, at Charlotte. Couple of mishaps, obviously, as we always have in these races. But talk about your confidence level, what you think we're going to see. What are you feeling going into that race?
I think the first thing to say is just the Gen 4 car is the most fun car on the iRacing service right now.
There you go. Another one that says that.
I don't think
I was
you're
going to say that seems to be the trend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to find too many people that disagree with that. I mean, between all the horsepower and then just how drivable the car is, and you get a lot of fall off, it's just a lot of fun. And you can really get people aero loose. Like there's just like a lot of like little things that just make that car so fun to drive. So I think just selfishly as a driver, I'm really looking forward. I think Chicagoland's a great track. I think it races really well in the game. We've in Monday Night Racing have had some really, really good races at Chicago. We've run the truck series there a few times and have had good performances. I've had good races in that combination. So I feel pretty confident in the Gen 4. I picked that car up a little bit later than some did. I was just taking a little bit of a hiatus from the game when that car came out, and I would say the last like 2 months or so, kind of leading into the series. I don't even remember exactly like when it came out, but I've been getting caught up and trying to do some official races with it, which has been a lot of fun. So I think you're probably going to see a pretty similar race to Charlotte. I would imagine probably going to be hotter temperatures, not going to have, kind of all that grip that we had courtesy of the night racing at Charlotte. So I think some of it will depend on what race control ends up deciding in terms of the day, time, and temperature, which I think will really impact kind of how the car drives and everything. But, I felt like it was a really competitive race, and the car is just hard enough to drive. I don't necessarily think it's all that hard of a car to drive. It's fun to drive, and I think there's a lot of elements of it that are very much in the driver's hands, but I don't think it's like so like out of control, difficult to drive where you get tons of cautions and guys can't keep their car underneath them. So the car's drivable, and I think that makes for a good show, but there's still like a really big skill ceiling with it. And think the best guys are going to be able to make a lot of passes and drive right to the front. So I think you put all that together, and it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I will say this: if anybody's driven the truck or seen the truck races at Chicago, you probably noticed that you guys aren't lifting a lot. You're probably mostly full throttle at Chicago in the trucks. If anybody's expecting that next week, you're gonna be surprised. You're gonna be in for a rude awakening because those cars are not easy to drive on that track. I personally haven't yet, but I do know on those worn out tracks, the Gen 4 is probably the best car on iRacing. Like I was talking about before, they just had the Gen 4 series at Old Atlanta, and that was just a blast. So I would expect that to be very similar. But we thank you for coming on the show, Matt. Congrats on the great finish tonight, the great race, and we look forward to next week.
No, appreciate it, guys. It's good to get the Typico Sportsbook car finally a good top 5 finish on the season. So for anyone at home, go if you're in a legal betting state, New Jersey, Ohio, Iowa, or Colorado, go ahead, download Typico Sportsbook and have yourself a little fun. But yeah, this is great, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
That was Matt Stolnick, P4 tonight. Almost helped me to a top 3.
That close.
I know.
Close.
I won't hate on him for that. But I believe we have one more guest tonight, and this is something we haven't done before on the show in the 2 seasons that we've been doing. We have Paul Sutton on, race control for Monday Night Racing. How are we doing tonight, Paul?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on and having me join the podcast.
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, this is the first time we've had somebody from race control on, so it's kind of a different perspective compared to what we usually have, whether it's a driver or a broadcaster, like we did last season. But kind of talk about what your role is in MNR. I know you've been around for a few seasons, but kind of talk about what you do for the league.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of with MNR since, ground up when, Ford and I kind of started it way back during the COVID times, and realized I wasn't the best at driving. So was helping kind of do the art race control stuff early, and knew that was kind of more my thing. And we had the great Josh Mendoza, who's probably the best in the business, help us with race control for a couple seasons. So I would help him on that, and definitely cut my teeth learning from him. So got to really appreciate that. And this season, just doing a little bit more. A lot of things are kind of just, working with Matt, Ford, Gary, all the guys on, rulebook, trying to make sure that, we're as transparent as we can. We want to make sure that, drivers understand where they stand, what the rules are. And if there's any questions, we want to try to clarify it and make it so then there's no confusion.
When it comes to tonight's race, obviously you are the eye in the sky. What were your thoughts here on the first race on the Repave Atlanta for MNR?
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, one of the great things that we did was kind of getting rid of that fast repair. There was definitely a noticeable difference, between Daytona and Atlanta for us. I really liked it. I think the racing was good. I think it was clean for the most part, but there's still going to be wrecks. Guys are aggressive. It just is going to happen.
I'm kind of curious, and I know I've heard a little bit about it. But talk about like a weekly prep that goes into one of these races for race control, or let's say like a day or two before the race. Like, what do you guys do as a whole? Like you, let's say Michael Hall or Ford, or got anybody involved in the league, whether it's race control or obviously Ford being the league owner. What goes into like a weekly prep to get ready for one of these races?
Like the main thing there, that's a great question, is kind of talking on how what different intricacies of the track. What do we have that's different in Atlanta with a super speedway series versus what we had, at Daytona? Is there different rules that we need to be aware of? Like, we decided that, hey, that's a tight squeeze on the front stretch, and this is a collaborative effort with everyone. It's kind of on the M&R team to say, hey, let's make that front stretch dog leg, fair game, you can go under that. So then guys aren't getting squeezed and having wrecks get caused. Because, some of us run the official races and, we try to see what trends there are and, how these tracks run, which it was good that it kind of timed up in that sense for Atlanta. And then just seeing where we can adjust, how can we improve? How can we find new ways to, make the series better and, clarify any rules that need to be fixed and try to just continue to make it better for the drivers.
Go ahead, Tanner. I think you were about to say something.
Yeah, when it comes to, I want to kind of dive into this quick repair. And we saw a lot of the effects of that tonight. Talk a little bit more about how that played out in this race, because we saw some really, really hard crashes. And these next-gen cars on iRacing are just such tanks that they were able to continue the race.
Yeah, I think that's a benefit of the next-gen cars is they can continue driving, but you still have to be kind of aware of, am I going to make this move? If you have that fast repair in your back pocket, as it gets later into that race, you're going to make bigger moves. You're going to make things that, might not end well for you, but then you say, hey, I just have to go down pit road. I have to, use my fast repair like that. But here, be a little bit more cautious and really be mindful of what moves you want to make because you might ruin your race.
Yeah, definitely. Paul, real quick, talk about how you got into iRacing, how you got into, the whole race control idea. I know you and Ford, you said back in COVID times, you realized that your driving wasn't good enough, so you decided to do race control. But talk about how you got involved in iRacing in general, and, what your impressions were and how they are today.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on service since like pre-COVID. I just kind of enjoyed it, built my own PC back then. To really just kind of, I enjoyed doing NASCAR 2003 season and ran that, a lot of different seasons, and then kind of transitioned over to iRacing. No, I'm decent, but there's guys with a lot better skill in Monday Night Racing, and I understood that and had a lot of fun running it. So, started before that and kind of knew that had that groundwork of the service, but then always kind of enjoy the officiating side of things, just even like with just other sports. So kind of understanding that rule book and understanding like the intricacies of it. And, Michael Hall and I were having a conversation literally just before this on, just how officiating is and how you have to understand people are human and, mistakes can be made, but how they really do it. So, yeah, then just kind of branched in, did some more, was actually for a couple races, do race control when we were smaller on some other little things of doing it while driving, which is fine. You have the iRacing cautions, but having a dedicated person's huge. And, when we had Josh Mendoza here, he was great, really helped me kind of learn and see what's the right way to call things and how to operate a series and how to do it the way that it should be.
So next week, obviously, the Gen 4 car headed to Chicago. There's a lot of hype around this Gen 4 car in iRacing in general. We've talked to several drivers tonight to say it's the most fun car to drive on the platform right now. As a member of Race Control, what are you kind of looking for out of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very racy car. It's fun to drive. It's hard to drive. So you're going to kind of be looking, what areas of the racetrack does the car get tight? Where does it get loose? And use that when you make judgment calls on who's at fault for incidents and kind of look to see, what's going to come out. I think M&R's best races are when we have harder to drive race cars. So I'm very excited for Chicago coming up. I love the racetrack. I love the Gen 4 car. So it should be fun.
Yeah, no doubt. We thank you for coming on the show, Paul. Glad to have a race control person on.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty cool aspect that we did tonight. We look forward to the rest of the season with you up there in the tower, or virtual tower, we'll call it. And good job tonight. I will say that. And we look forward to next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
For coming on, Paul.
Yep.
That was Paul Sutton, race control. First time I've said that.
was gonna say that was fun. That was fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Next up, we'll have our final guest tonight. Gonna be Dylan Conley. Finished P12 tonight.
Hey,
Dylan, how
second
are you,
straight
man?
week. Second straight week he's been on.
No. I gained 2 spots from the last race, so in about 6 races, I'll probably win.
Different series, but yeah.
Of course, that was probably the lowest I'd been like the whole year or the whole season so far.
You finished 12th, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, tonight, I don't think I was lower than like 12th or 13th all night. I was just vibing on the bottom because I was like, man, they're going to keep wrecking, so I need some options here.
You were behind me on one of those restarts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got run over and about run you over, which made you run over someone.
It's all right.
There was one restart. Someone didn't go, and then I want to say the 10 cars behind him on the top all got like a 4X because everyone was just bottling because everyone just kept hitting each other square in the rear. So I was like, yeah, this isn't going to be good to be on the top like this early.
I wanted to talk to you about that because I saw you running the bottom a lot during that race, and we talked on the broadcast several times how the bottom seemed to be the slower line, but you were hanging out down there, and I wanted you to kind of elaborate on that strategy.
So I had a terrible mix of being off work last week and it being Atlanta week officially on iRacing, and the B car drives a whole lot different than this, but the A car, I noticed a lot of them like to wreck. I know a lot of these guys like to wreck, but if you run the top for too long, you get really tight and you get to start having cars get in the wall. So I was like, I'm just going to hang on the bottom till we get to like lap 100, lap 110. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just go wherever. If I want to go to the top, I can go to the top. I want to go to the bottom. Plus, it was also for wreck avoidance. There were like the first 3 or 4 wrecks were either the car behind me or I was next to it. So I was like, yeah, this is, if I had been on the top, I think there was that wreck that Presley had caused. If I had not been on the bottom, I would have been in that. So
yeah, that's
but it was just a strategy. You can't have a shot to win if you don't get there, because there were a lot of guys that messed their race up because they were getting too aggressive or they got caught in the top and then something happened. So that was the only reason for that, because I knew like, yeah, this line's going to suck, but at least I'll make it to like, I'll at least see the checkered flag close to the front. But
yeah, no, for sure. I know my mindset tonight was to run up front. I wanted to run the top a lot. I didn't know how it was going to shred the tires, honestly, because I was thinking about that going into the race. I was like, which line might be better for the tires? Because I knew at some point tire wear was going to come into play. I felt like maybe the bottom, even though sometimes it might be worse for that right front. I don't know what you were feeling there, because we did have our longest green flag run there until we got that caution with like 5 to go or whatever.
It wasn't. Sorry.
No, you're good. But what were you feeling out there? Because I know my car was, and I was talking to a couple people, but they were plowing tight. I don't know what you were feeling there in the pack.
Well, I knew the wear wasn't bad, that's why I stayed out. I think Fern took tires with like 4 or 5 to go or whatever that caution was. But I knew since they cooled down, the reason that the car starts to handle bad is if you start swerving a lot, you start changing lanes, because my tires were only, I checked at the end of the race, they were at like 95 and they were like 60 lap old tires. But it's just all about heat buildup. And I knew as soon as they got cooled down, I was like, okay, we'll have more grip, because there's a lot of grip in the racetrack anyway because of how hot it was. But that's just, I knew the wear wasn't gonna be bad. I knew if there was like 20 to go when we restarted, I was gonna take tires. But since it was 5 to go, I didn't think it was, ideal to take them. But I look back on it now, I wish I had, because I was sitting like 7th on the white flag, and then I ended up 12th just because I had no grip at the end, because I got forced out of line by Dale, who went below the red line. But I was playing chicken with him. I said even on my stream, I'm like, yeah, he's not coming back up. He's going to either have to wreck us or back out, because they said we could go below the dog legs in the on the front stretch. Well, he didn't find anywhere to merge. He had no help with him. So I'm like, yeah, he's not coming back up. I'm not rewarding this. If it's like lap 40, yeah, probably, whatever. But yeah, so that's how I went from possibly having a top 5 to having a 12th. Yeah, finished 12th. So it's just how it is with the tire wear everywhere. It's the only super speedway where tires really matter. Now, the only other one I think it might, I'll have to see how it does at Legacy Daytona in a couple weeks, but it should race about the same, I think.
You know, we've been told from the director upstairs that we've got to ask you about something. Give us a little tour of the wheel we've got there.
Of the wheel? Oh,
Your
right here.
equipment there.
It's a Driving Force GT. This wheel is older than most people on iRacing.
Yeah, there we go.
It was fresh out of the box in 2007. I even have. Let's see if I have the Gran Turismo I got with it. It's probably somewhere.
Oh, you got the GT5 with it then?
Oh yeah, it was the.
Oh,
it was 2007 that I got it. I think.
Oh, so it's probably GT4.
Yeah, because it was still this is the PS3 wheel. It's still where I have the original pedals tool. There's a little corner chipped off of the gas pedal, but it's like the top right corner because it brushed up against like the paneling on my house. So
you're using the plastic pedals?
Yeah, same pedals I've had
oh
for
my goodness, God
like
bless
12,
you.
Like 12, 13.
Wheeling it to P12 with the plastic pedals.
I also had P14 last week at a difficult track, or last time we raced.
I'm amazed. Listen, I got a story. I used that exact combo back in 2013. I made pro on that exact combo, as well as a computer that was from 2005. Now I made it in 2013, so I was running minimum graphics and that exact Driving Force GT with those plastic pedals, and I knew immediately. I got for Christmas that year I got a G27, but it's a good wheel. I will say that from firsthand experience. It is a very good wheel. And the fact that you had a brand new in 07, you said?
It was something like it was whenever GT3 came out.
Okay. So, yeah.
Because you had the deal. It was like $100 wheel by itself, but you could also, for like $140, you could get GT4 with it. Or GT3, which I think was GT3.
Yeah, I got it brand new. So
I was like, sure.
When that was. Yeah. I know I used mine. I used to use mine on the PlayStation 3. And that was back in the NASCAR 09 days when I first got that wheel. So, it's very good.
It gets the job done. I'm not trying to go pro, and this is just a hobby, and I just do this for fun, and I stream for fun. So it's like, there's no point in dumping $500-600 for something I don't need yet. Now, if it gives out, I'm like, okay, I'll just order something new, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah.
No, we had to ask. We had to ask.
No, that's fair. I gotta get that a lot.
It was from the men upstairs, Yeah,
the man upstairs, huh? Yeah. But that's the thing that shocks people. It's not that I have the wheel; it's that I still use the pedals. Because I know a lot of people that have this wheel, but they got they have load cell pedals, or they have a brand new set like Club Sports, but it's the whole original set. They still work fine, and I use a can of air to clean them out probably once every 2 months or so.
Okay.
I take care of them. That's one thing going off tangent. That's one thing I can thank my mom for. I take care of a lot of stuff. So it's like I've had the same car in real life since I've had it since 2011, and it's got like one scratch on it.
All right.
Like I haven't bumped it. I haven't hit anything. I haven't done anything, and it still looks like it came off the showroom floor.
Here we go. Just one more before we let you go. You're entered in the Firecracker 400 coming up, aren't you?
Oh, sure am.
Tell us a little bit about the build-up.
Yeah, let's talk about that event. We just got notice about it.
Yeah, it starts Wednesday or Thursday. We'll know about what prelim I'm in, because they closed the signings, I think, after the Coke race, because the folks at E-Racer, they also have a Coke team. It's Colin Bowden, and I can't remember who the other driver is. It's the 69 and the 42 car.
Is it Keister?
It's Colin Keister. So they both have cars, and I think they have airtime on it. So I think they're closing the signups at like 10 Eastern or something. But it's a real fun event. They didn't have it last year. I can't remember exactly why, but they brought it back this year, and it's the biggest event in sim racing. Anybody who's anybody is racing in it. I want to say the last time they had it, 36 of the 40 drivers in the Coke field in 2021 were entered in it.
Wow.
And the other 4 were they didn't do it because they're also either real life racers or they also were in another pro series. I think Mitchell DeYoung was one that wasn't in it because he was running in the Porsche Cup League.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I can't remember who the other three were, but I think it was 36 of the 40. And then so I'll give you the breakdown of how everything is. There's if they get full signups, it's 496 people max. So they'll have 8 prelims, 4 on Wednesday, 4 on Thursday, and they will have 64 drivers in each prelim. It's all random, but they try to keep it even. I think they put them all in order based off of I rating, and then they just sort them, 1 through 8, and then if you can request to be on a certain night, if say you got to work Wednesday night or Thursday night or whatever, or you can say, hey, I want a late one on Thursday. But they take 64 at each prelim. Then you have 4 heat races in that prelim. They take the top 7 out of those, and then they move them to the preliminary race. Then there's an LCQ. Then they take the top 10 out of that, which is everyone else that didn't make top 7 in those 4 heat races. They take the top 10 from that to make a 38 car field. And if you finish top 11 in that, then you move to top 88. So they shrink from 496 down to 88 in the span of a day and a half. Then you go to qualifying the next week, which is single car qualifying, which it takes 2 days. The second day is bump day, kind of like how IndyCar sort of does it. The first day, if you qualify top 20, you're locked in. You're all good. The second day, they fill out the next 22, and then they take everyone from like 43rd through 85th and put them in a 200, the Firecracker 200, which is a race on Monday. Then the big one's on Wednesday, and then they have 3. Like if you can't make qualifying, or if you're like 86th through 88th in qualifying, you're like on standby. Which everyone usually makes it, so they usually just say screw it, we'll put the other 3 in. But everyone wants to win this race. Anyone that's goal oriented or anyone that's a sim racer, you want to enter events like this because it's the real deal. I mean, it's got NASCAR drivers out the wazoo. I mean, just in my prelim, we had Garrett Smithley, we had Kyle Busch. I want to say Ryan Ellis was in that, and Kyle Busch didn't even make it. He finished behind me. And there were 2 or 3 Coke drivers in my prelim that didn't make it out of the prelim. So it's loaded from top to bottom, but it's a good challenge. We've had prelim testing races last couple nights, and I've done a couple, and it's been good.
Yeah, I think the one thing we have to mention too about that race, if you make the, I don't remember if you mentioned it. If you do make the main event, it is an open setup race.
Yeah.
So you do need, you do need
help.
that. Yeah, exactly. You can't do it on your own. It's not like these fixed setup races where everybody's running the same setup. You gotta have that, and you know what? That's kind of cool when you think about it, because you could get that advantage. Obviously, if you know some trick or whatever to the 87 car, but it is kind of cool. It's like a real life race, and they make it as competitive as possible. For the purse and all that.
The 42 that end up in the 400, there's nobody that's like going to make it in as an upset. All 42 are going to be able to drive.
Yeah.
I mean, I like, but I also don't like, and I can understand why people don't like that format where it goes from being a fixed event to open. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, well, can't it just all be fixed, or can't it just all be open? Because I think because if you've ever driven, let's say, a fixed, and then you've driven an A open, it can drive like 2 different cars. A fixed and an open car can drive like 2 different things, because the fixed car is going to be more tuned to be more suitable for everybody, regardless of skill level. Meanwhile, an open car, you can tune that and say, hey, let's make this, way looser, or, change some stuff in the shocks to where it handles better through a certain corner. So that's where, I mean, you'll see some crazy stuff. I mean, the spoiler on the setup now is about like this, and you can actually see it physically change, but you'll see guys in the qualifying, it'll be like this on the back of the car. And it's because they did it to make it tighter, because you'll have more downforce on the back end of the car. Yeah. And it looks like, because I like that they actually show it, because it's kind of the same thing that they do with like the wing sprint cars. You'll literally see it like laying flat on the back of the car.
Yep.
And you'll see some incredible lap times. I want to say that the top 10 were separated by less than a tenth, and then it'll kind of spread out a little bit. Now you'll see people wreck. in qualifying. That's very rare to see people wreck in qualifying.
Oh yeah.
Just because they're trying to get every 100th of a second that they can, because 100th of a second could be the difference between, making the 200 or the 400.
Yeah, definitely. And
the track's so abrasive. It's bumpy Daytona. It's not like it's an easy track anyway.
No, not at all. And especially those cars. I mean, if you've ever driven the 87, I know I have. It's difficult. If you think a Gen 4 is difficult, if you drive an 87 on one of those super speedways, it's not easy. Like, I'm not gonna say anybody can't do it, but to make that race, it's gonna be the best of the best.
Yeah. I think I'm okay. I'll have to work to just even make it top 11 in my race, because you think, oh, just top 11, that's not that hard, and then you realize, you look at the field and you got 10 guys that race on Tuesday nights, and then you got 3 NASCAR drivers on the field too. So that's like, oh crap, I might not even get top 20.
It's so good that Dale Jr. promotes it.
Yeah.
So you know that it's a good race. So
there's a lot of drivers that promoted. Tommy Joe Martins, he was a sponsor of mine the last race, and of course the Alpha Prime folks have been real good to me. I'm trying to think of other drivers. Parker Kligerman and Landon Castle on the broadcast crew. Kyle Busch races in it. Corey Himes racing in it. There's a whole Parker Retzlaff's racing in it. I'm trying to think who else, but there's a whole mound of people that race in real life that are also supporting this, and it's cool to see, because very rare. iRacing's cool because you could race with actual NASCAR drivers. You might, if you play like Madden or something, you might play against someone in the NFL, but it's different because if you're just better at the controls, then you can beat them. Like if I play Tom Brady in Madden, I could probably beat him just because I know how to handle a gaming controller better than he can. But that's what's great about sim racing. It's the closest counterpart to the real sport that there is, outside of maybe Wii bowling. But
yeah, come on. Let's not hate on Wii bowling.
I'm not hating on it, because you actually got a same arm motion and everything. It's not, you're not using a ball, but this is why it's so good to have a service like that, regardless of what racing video game you have, because you got both your pedals, you got the steering wheel. The only thing that's different is there's no threat of bodily injury, big bodily injury if you crash.
Well, if you have a motion sim.
Yeah, if you have a motion sim, which I think you got to look up the video of Jordan Taylor when he was running at Monza, and his motion simulator falls over.
Yeah.
And
I've seen that.
And it's funny because he's just looking around. He says, "I think we crashed in real life." And it's funny because everything stays in place. He's like, "Crap, it's not good." And but it's just neat. So that's why I like iRacing a lot. Now I'll still play whatever, but that's the neat thing about events like this is you could have who raced it last time? Kyle Busch raced it, Dale Jr. raced it. He's
Dale
probably
Jr.
gonna be like probably the promo pick that they bring in as the 43rd car if he doesn't make it. And then you could have someone that's brand new to iRacing, or you could have there's guys I know that haven't ran on iRacing in 2 years. I'll just say Nathan Lyons won. He hadn't ran on iRacing since he was out of the Coke Series, and he dusted off the wheel for this. So this is a big event coming up.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it. I know everybody tuning in. You guys should all tune in. I know I will. I might even. I don't know. Are signups closed?
They close tomorrow, I believe. It's crazy how much advertising they're doing, because if you use the UI, the first thing that pops up is Firecracker 400 signups.
Well, there you go. That's when you know it's a big deal.
Yeah, because iRacing doesn't just do that for anybody. It's big.
It's a huge deal. Well, we're looking forward to it, Dylan. Congratulations on the very solid run tonight, P12. Creeping up the leaderboard there. So, you're that much closer to a top 10. We look forward to that.
I said about 6 races I'll probably win at this rate. So.
Hey, it's an 8 races between the two, so you got time.
It's plenty of time.
Yeah. But good run tonight. Thanks for joining us again. Always a pleasure having you.
You bet.
And we'll see you next week.
You bet. Oh, I want to say thank you, Gavin Newton, painting my car. He's taking commissions. He's an ARCA painter, everyone. So thank him. Ford Martin, everyone in charge here. Podium Esports doing the race. Thank everyone. I probably missed someone, but they know I mean thank you. So.
All right. Well, you got enough. So thanks, Dylan. We appreciate it.
And that's
he's a character, I'll tell you that.
He is. The fact that he's about to run the firecracker with plastic pedals is probably the best thing I've ever heard.
I from personal experience, I can tell you it's not easy. It's not gonna be. It's not fun. I'll tell you that. On the screen though, we're gonna look at a wreck. I wasn't too happy at this point. I'll say that.
I didn't figure. And this was what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. I was pretty pissed off. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know what happened. Now that I see a replay, I see what happened. Nick looks like he got driven through. But yeah, that's what put me behind the 8-ball. That's what allowed me to say, all right, I'm not taking any prisoners. I'm gonna drive up the middle. I'm gonna try to go to the front. And yeah, you can see he just, oh man. All right, that's the first time I'm seeing that. I mean, I just had nowhere to go. I'm on the brakes at this point. I thought, so here's the funny thing. I thought the caution came out at this point. That's why I'm going so slow for a while. Because I'm like, all right, caution's out.
I was about to ask, were you surprised that there wasn't a caution? Because
I was 100%. I literally wasn't paying attention. I was so mad. I was just holding the wheel. And I'm just like, I got wrecked. I got to see what my damage is. I'm going to come down, get tires, whatever. And then I look up and I'm like, wait a minute. What's going on? Why are people passing me? And then it doesn't say let people by or anything. I'm like, oh, the caution's not out. I'm like, I gotta actually go.
Gotta go. Forget looking at the damage. We gotta get to the center line. We gotta push.
I was like, oh, I probably lost an additional 5 seconds after that. And I saw the leader on my leaderboard. They were like probably 13 seconds behind me. And I'm like, well, I don't get a caution. I got no draft. I got no help. I'm like, I got to race for a lucky dog, I guess, the whole race. But yeah, I mean, at this, I barely, as you can see me there. I slammed the brakes and I'm on the brakes there. I only had 20 seconds of damage, like I said. I'm lucky the 6 didn't run into the back of me. Oh, poor Matt. Oh, I didn't even know that happened to him.
Yeah, but Matt got collected in the back of it.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I didn't know the caution came out. But like I said, in the end, it might have been lucky because they did wreck shortly after that with Presley and I don't know who else wrecked in that. So it was a blessing in disguise. I caught the caution, got the tires, got the damage repaired, got back to the front, stayed there. Unfortunately, didn't come up with a great finish, but it happened.
Didn't come up with a bad finish.
No, but I set very high expectations for myself on this sim. So, but hey, what are you gonna do? There's always next week, or in my case, there's 2 weeks, but
Oh, in your case, there's 2 weeks. In everybody else's case, a lot of others' cases,
next
it's 1 week.
Yeah,
next week. There will also be a next week for the front stretch post-race show, but our time this week is coming to a close. Want to thank everybody for having me tonight, filling in for the always entertaining Michael Massey. Hopefully, we filled some pretty large shoes.
Yeah, no, you were good, Tanner. Appreciate it. No, this was fun. Always a good time doing this. Thanks to everybody at Podium, as always. Always a fun time. Yeah, great people. But yeah, we had fun. But anyway, we hope you guys all enjoyed the front stretch post race show. Check us out on frontstretch.com. Got a lot of good stuff going on. Doing articles. We got stuff on our YouTube channel from each race weekend. Various other things. So check us out. But anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's Tanner Marlar. I'm Brandon Hoff. Signing off. See you guys next week.